Good evening. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's comment hearing in case number 9666 regarding the applications of Skipjack Offshore Energy LLC and U.S. Wind Incorporated for round 2, year 1 of the state's offshore wind solicitation process. My name is Jason Stanek. I'm the chairman of the Maryland Public Service Commission. With me tonight are my 4 colleagues, Commissioner Michael Richard, Commissioner Anthony O'Donnell, Commissioner Obi Linton, and Commissioner Mindy Herman. Pursuant to the state's Clean Energy Jobs Act of 2019, the Commission is required to review applications for proposed offshore wind projects seeking offshore wind renewable energy credits, otherwise known as ORECs. The first of 3 application periods began on January 1st, 2021, and there will be 2 additional application periods beginning on January 1st, 2022 and 2023. For this round, the Commission has received 5 applications for round 2, year 1, and that was from 2 separate developers. The proposed offshore wind leases where the development will occur are located off of Maryland's coast on the outer continental shelf. Federal law gives the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management oversight responsibility for all renewable energy projects within the outer continental shelf. Thus, the development of offshore wind lease areas is under federal jurisdictions since these lease areas are in federal waters. As a part of its review, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management requires site assessment plans and construction and operations plans to be submitted and approved before an offshore wind project can begin construction. Both plans must be in compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to allow the Commission to hear from interested members of the public regarding the contents of these applications. The Commissioners tonight are here to listen to your concerns and thoughts. We will not be able to answer any questions about the applications or provide individual views as a litigated proceeding is now underway. We encourage those that are not able to speak tonight to provide written comments via the public comment portal on our PSC homepage. We will accept comments through November 19th, 2021. There is just one ground rule tonight, and it's pretty simple. Since we have so many people registered to speak tonight, we will be limiting the length of your comments to 3 minutes per participant. So again, 3 minutes for every speaker. The Secretary will thank you for your comments, and your audio connection will end automatically when you reach the 3-minute mark. If you do find yourself running out of time, please put your thoughts in writing. All of your comments that are submitted in writing will be read. Also, if your comments are similar to another person's comments, you may wish to associate your position with their comments rather than elaborating or repeating earlier comments. We will begin by having official representatives and elected officials speak first, and then move through the list of registered speakers in the order in which emails requesting participation were received by the PSC. There will be no opportunity for an open mic tonight for those who have not pre-registered. With that, we will begin the comment hearing. Madam Secretary, please call the first speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First on our list will be Senator Mary Carosa.
Good evening. I am Senator Mary Beth Carosa. I'm the only state senator representing Ocean City, Maryland in the Maryland General Assembly. And as someone who was raised, resides, and has always loved my hometown of Ocean City, I remain committed to doing all I can to protect our OC way of life and our spectacular ocean views. I share this personal perspective with the Public Service Commissioners to implore you to consider how this OC way of life for both residents and visitors may be no more in the future with the most recent and updated proposals submitted to you in case number 9666. These updated proposals requesting additional offshore wind renewable energy credits would allow for a significant increase in the number of turbines constructed off of Ocean City, including giving U.S. Wind the ability to construct up to 104 turbines, 850 feet tall, and only 13 miles off of our coast. As Ocean City Mayor Rick Meehan has so aptly and consistently stated, we support clean energy in Maryland, including offshore wind, but stand together in strong opposition to the size and locations of the wind turbines. Ocean City tourism industry continues to generate thousands of jobs and is a top revenue generator for the entire state of Maryland, pumping billions of dollars into the state's economy. Why would we put all this at risk when studies continue to show that tourism drops significantly when wind turbines are in view, as well as a decline in jobs, home sales, and lower home values? Why would we put all this at risk when the turbines can be moved further offshore, as other states have done? When the size of the turbines were first agreed upon in 2012, they were 2 megawatt towers and approximately 200 feet high. Now these turbines have been increased to 12 megawatt, towering 850 feet tall, with blades alone larger than the Statue of Liberty at 361 feet long. For the past 4 years, the town of Ocean City has made a fair and reasonable request that the lease areas either be relocated further off of Ocean City's coast or new lease areas be created further offshore. Not only has this reasonable request gone unanswered, but the projects have dramatically increased in size with more and larger turbines. We see that other states have moved forward in protecting their coast, while Maryland is looking at more and bigger turbines as close as 13 miles off the OC beach. For example, offshore winds in farms in Virginia and North Carolina are 37 miles off the coast, preserving the views from Virginia Beach and the Caroline beaches. Further, the state of New York passed legislation requiring turbines to be 20 miles offshore. Consistent with our past requests and the strong case that the town of Ocean City has made for moving the turbines further offshore, I will continue to support Ocean City's efforts to move the turbines further offshore. In New York, Virginia, North Carolina, if New York, Virginia, and North Carolina can protect their beach communities, then why can't we do this in Maryland as well? I also want to be consistent with issues I've raised in the past. I consistently have raised additional concerns about the impact of the larger turbines on the commercial fishing industry, maritime transportation, and military communications. The commercial fishing industry continues to raise their objections to the larger turbines, as the tight spacing of the structures will make the wind farm areas inaccessible to many local commercial fishing vessels that use gear that can be snagged and damaged by the tower foundations. Given the multiple limitations that the Maryland General Assembly has placed on the commercial fishing industry over the years, it is only fair that Maryland should provide some protections to this industry. In determining whether to award offshore wind renewable credits, the Public Service Commission must consider the cost to ratepayers, various benefits to Marylanders, and changes in energy and pricing. Many of my constituents in Maryland Senate District 38, which includes Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset counties, are concerned that they as ratepayers and taxpayers will take the hit for the proposed offshore wind projects in Maryland. With so many unanswered questions about the real impact of the updated proposed offshore wind projects, and with so many Maryland constituencies affected, and with the 2019 Maryland Clean Energy Act extending potential lease areas to 80 miles off of Maryland's coast, it seems only reasonable for the PSC to pause and hold off granting approvals for the proposed offshore projects until we have ensured that we have protected our Ocean City beach and horizon. Thank you for your kind consideration, and may we look back at this time as the time we protected Maryland's only beach town for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Next on our list will be Evan Richards, representing the office of Senator Kathy Klausmeier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Evan Richards. I'm here speaking on behalf of Senator Kathy Klausmeier in support of U.S. Wind's offshore wind application. It's no secret to any of us that climate change is a crisis that we must continue to address. The General Assembly over the past decade or so has taken great steps in order to do that, including ensuring that we can produce offshore wind here in Maryland. Approving this application in full will give US Wind the ability to power 500,000 homes with clean, renewable energy that's currently not being produced. Such a large amount of energy generation will meet the state's offshore wind goals and advance our greenhouse gas reductions. It's important to note that not only will approving this application help Maryland combat climate change, but it also benefits Maryland's economy. US Wind is the only organization that has a direct focus here on Maryland. Will create thousands of jobs in construction and operations if this application is approved. US Wind has also proposed a production facility in Sparrows Point that will have the potential to manufacture turbines not only for Maryland, but for projects up and down the East Coast as well. That facility is projected to create 500 permanent jobs and produce $1 billion in labor income over the next 20 years. My comments are short tonight, but the senator, it's something that she feels very strongly about. It's one of her proudest legislative accomplishments here in Annapolis, is advocating for offshore wind. She urges the PSC to approve the application in full so offshore wind development can finally begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list is Mayor Meehan from Ocean City.
Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Rick Meehan, and I am the mayor of Ocean City, Maryland, and I've been elected official in Ocean City since 1985 and served as its mayor for the past 15 years. To be consistent, I would like again to reiterate that the town of Ocean City supports clean energy and the promised investment by both companies in the Baltimore Harbor. Promised jobs this new industry will create in the state is clearly a benefit to all Marylanders, but it should not come at the expense of the future of the town of Ocean City. In June 2020, I testified in a PSC hearing when the Skipjack project presented to the commission a change in the size of their proposed turbines from a then 8 megawatt turbine to a 12 megawatt turbine. At that time, the project consisted of 12 turbines, and it was clearly stated that all of these turbines would be located more than 20 miles off of our coast. And to quote from the commission's own opinion, stated in number 28, another visual benefit from the use of the Halide X is the distance from the Maryland shoreline to the nearest turbine will increase from 19.5 miles to 21.5 miles or 22.7 miles. The increased distance will help to ameliorate the large height of the Halide X. It was clear that the commission supported the larger turbine, and that one of the advantages was that the turbines would be 20 plus miles offshore and would help to preserve the viewshed off Ocean City. Clearly, a precedent was set. Why would you now consider awarding additional ORECs that would result in 12 to 14 megawatt turbines being closer than 20 miles offshore? This would contradict the commission's own opinion. As an aside, I do not believe that US Wind has ever come back before the commission requesting a change to the larger turbines now being proposed. The first ORECs were awarded in May of 2017, yet not one turbine has been constructed. It took US Wind 4 years to get just one buoy out in the Atlantic to measure wind velocity. Why would the PSC rush to issue additional ORECs with so many unanswered questions? Neither company has even secured a landing point for their operations. This does not have to happen now. Awarding ORECs that would allow turbines to be built just 13 or 17 or miles off our beach would be a mistake of a lifetime. It would be contrary to the opinion of this body issued in the Skipjack hearing. It would be irreversible and would destroy the pristine view of the horizon that millions of residents, property owners, and visitors have enjoyed for generations. We cannot rely on US Wind or Skipjack to protect the future of Ocean City. We must rely on you. We only get one chance to get this right, and this is your chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list is Mayor Day from Salisbury.
Let's move to the next speaker.
Thank you. With that, we have Mr. Terence McGee, City Engineer of Ocean City.
Doesn't appear we have him either. Let's move to the next speaker.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. McGee, and we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Terence McGee and I'm the city engineer for the town of Ocean City. But tonight I'm speaking in my individual capacity. In January of 2020, I attended a similar hearing in Ocean City regarding the increased size of the turbines planned for the OREC projects. At that hearing, US Wind noted that their proposed change from 6 megawatt to 12 megawatt towers was a good thing because they could build fewer towers further from shore. At that same hearing, I warned that US Wind was planning to construct many more turbines than what they were showing the commission, and that those turbines would be as close as 13 miles from Ocean City. In fact, Ocean City commissioned renderings of what I thought was a worst-case scenario build-out of the US Wind lease area. People who saw those renderings were shocked. So shocked that many thought the city was exaggerating the project. Comments I heard from some of those who saw the renderings were things like, they will never build that many giant windmills so close to Ocean City. Ocean City is using scare tactics. Those renderings that scared so many people showed a total of 61 turbines. 61. I provided the quantity and layout of the turbines to the consultant that created those renderings. Never in my worst nightmares did I envision 104 megawatt, 14 megawatt turbines built in this lease area. Never. The commission is under no obligation to award all or any part of the round 2 ORECs to US Wind at this time. US Wind and others will argue that if you don't, you are delaying offshore wind development in Maryland. Don't believe them. This commission already awarded ORECs to US Wind back in 2017. US Wind promised in their proposal to be producing that power on January 1st, 2020. It's now 2021. As the mayor stated, they have no landfall location, they have no COP, they haven't even managed to build the Met Tower. In those same 4 years, US Wind could have worked with Bowman Ocean City to establish a new lease area further offshore like already exist in Virginia and North Carolina. They failed to do so. Instead, during those 4 years, they put up a lot of billboards and they deployed a buoy. Awarding US Wind additional ORECs under any of their bid scenarios, but especially bids 2 or 3, will result in a wall of turbines across the entire Ocean City beach horizon. No one can argue anymore that they won't be seen. They will be the dominant feature on our horizon, both day and night. The US Wind project has never been properly thought out, and these bids are no exception. The proposed build dates don't even comply with the enabling legislation, and the provided economic analysis made no mention of potential negative impacts to Maryland's economy of placing so many of these gigantic turbines well within viewing distance. Reject the US Wind bids and don't award any more ORECs for any project that proposes to put turbines closer to Ocean City than those being built off Virginia Beach. As our mayor says, let's get it right. Thank you.
Again, just a procedural point here. Are you testifying in your capacity as city engineer or as an individual? Because you were referencing previous testimony.
I'm testifying as an individual, and the only testimony I was referring to were remarks I made at the January 2020 public hearing at the convention center.
Did you testify in the skipjack trial?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you, sir. Madam Secretary, please call the next speaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next speaker is Jen Aosa with Baltimore County.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Stanek and members of the Commission. I am Jen Aosa, the Chief Sustainability Officer for Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski Jr. And I'm here today on behalf of Baltimore County and our more than 850,000 residents to say that we support the expansion of offshore wind projects in Maryland. Maryland is already experiencing climate change, higher tides, extreme storms, devastating floods, and excessive heat. We saw elsewhere this summer how excessive heat and flooding can have devastating impacts on our communities. Investments in large-scale renewable energy is now more urgent than it's ever been. Baltimore County Executive Olszewski and other local leaders are prioritizing these investments. We're building large-scale solar arrays and capturing landfill methane to produce renewable energy. For the state of Maryland to meet its renewable energy goals, the expansion of renewable energy generation, including offshore wind, is critical. Offshore wind will help the whole state mitigate climate change, but these projects will also bring considerable economic opportunities to the entire state. In our county, Trade Point Atlantic is transforming an out-of-commission steel manufacturing facility to a key logistics hub in the offshore wind supply chain, with hundreds of millions in investments slated for this hub. This means jobs for Baltimore County, the Baltimore metropolitan region, and the state of Maryland. Manufacturing, building trades jobs, operations and maintenance for the long-term green energy production. How often are we afforded the opportunity for large-scale economic development that actually improves the condition of our environment? These proposed projects have the power to position Maryland as a leader in renewable wind by creating capacity to provide components for wind energy along the entire East Coast. This will position Baltimore County and Maryland as a critical cog in regional offshore wind development. We are preparing for this green energy future by investing in workforce development and training to prepare job seekers and connect a willing workforce to these opportunities. Baltimore County recognizes that the decision before the PSC is a weighty one, as it's about more than any single proposed project. Moving forward with significant offshore wind capacity will have positive ripple effects throughout the state of Maryland and our region. As such, we respectfully urge the PSC to approve the maximum capacity of offshore wind off Maryland's coast and help stimulate the generation of renewable wind energy for the benefit of all Marylanders. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, we have reached the end of our list of official and government representatives. So I will now be moving on to the second list of participants for today. First on our list is Charlie Garlow.
Garlow, you're on mute. When your name is called, if you could just be prepared to unmute yourself, that could expedite matters. There you go, Mr. Garlow. Mr. Garlow, you were unmuted and you remuted yourself.
I'll try again.
There you go.
My name is Charlie Garlow. I have spent most of my adult life in Maryland. I've now retired to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and I look forward to seeing more wind turbines off the coast of Delaware and Maryland because it will, as Ms. Carosa pointed out, create more good jobs, better health, help to reduce global warming, and at the same time save money for Marylanders. Now, there have been other people who, such as Senator Carosa, who asked questions and that suggested there are so many unanswered questions. Well, I've got some answers for them. She asked, why not move the turbines to 30 miles offshore? Of course, what that would mean would BOEM would have to go through the whole process of preparing additional lease areas that are 30 miles offshore, probably placing such turbines right in the middle of the traffic lanes for the cargo ships that come up to Philadelphia. That would further delay the urgently needed installation and construction of turbines. If people are concerned about the appearances of these wind turbines, surely they should have been concerned about the much closer to the shore and much uglier of things that currently assault those of us who enjoy the beaches, such as cargo ships. There's one that routinely comes right past the Rehoboth Beach that I enjoy, and it has Zhang written right on the side of it. It's coming from China or someplace overseas, bringing God knows what kind of useless cargo to Philadelphia. And it's very close to the shore, and it's going to be much larger in relative view than the wind turbines, which are much farther away. Likewise, there are airplanes that fly along with, get your martinis at Joe's place, making lots of noise and making an unpleasant sound, trying to draw attention to their advertisements. All those things, though, have not scared away people, have not reduced the costs or the prices paid for buildings and houses along the way. In fact, we've enjoyed increased prices. It's not scaring anybody away. The reason it does is because people come to the beach and enjoy the view of their grandchildren playing in the sand, and the view of the dolphins and porpoises, and the view of other wonderful, the waves, the wonderful sky. All those wonderful things continue to draw people to our beaches in spite of those things like the rusty cargo vessels from overseas and the advertising planes. And the reason for that is because people are able to just turn off their view of things that they find to be unpleasant and focus on the things that are pleasant. And that's what I would urge Senator Carosa and others to focus on, which is to enjoy the beach the way that it is, and don't worry about the ugliness that you perceive might be the case when things are much farther offshore, much less intrusive to the view, and our property values will most likely remain or increase or improve as time goes by. For those reasons, I urge that you approve those ORECs and other things that may be necessary for the construction of more and more wind farms. We need more of them all the time in order to help stop global warming. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next on our list is Peggy Schultz.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Offshore Wind. My name is Peggy Schultz. I represent Power, People for Offshore Wind Energy Resources, a coalition of organizations and leaders who support an offshore wind project for Delaware. We who live in states with plenty of coastline find ourselves already feeling the effects of climate change. Delaware, as you may know, has the lowest average elevation of any of the 50 states at 60 feet. The Delaware Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control says that a conservative estimate of sea level rise for the year 2100 is 0.5 meter. A less restrained estimate is 1.5 meters. The Delaware Sea Level Rise Advisory Committee, upon which I served as an alternate, estimates that we could lose as much as 11% of our total land mass should we have 1.5 meters of sea level rise. At even a sea level rise of just 2 feet, our septic systems and drinking water will be endangered. If you drive along country roads in southern Delaware, you will even now see places where farmers have built up berms to protect their crops from saltwater incursion. You will see stands of snags killed by encroaching seawater. Neither Maryland nor Delaware has an abundance of rolling hills for onshore wind turbines. We have no turbulent mountain streams that we can control with dams. We have no gurgling geothermal pools. But what do we have? We have miles and miles of ocean surface off both our shores where the wind whips up strong and where the potential lies to generate 137% of Delaware's power and 36% of Maryland's. In compliance with the U.S. Climate Alliance, onto which governors of both Delaware and Maryland have signed, And with President Biden's goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, Maryland has wisely chosen to make an offshore wind commitment. We hope that Delaware will soon follow.
Thank you. Next on our list is Aaron Tamarcu.
Hello there. Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Tamarcu. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Trade Point Atlantic. We're the owners and developers of the 3,200-acre former steel mill once occupied by Bethlehem Steel in Sparrows Point in Baltimore County. We come to you in full support of the applications before you, and we urge the Public Service Commission to act on those applications, and when they do, to consider each application's planned local investment and the commitments they have to the communities in the Maryland area. This means real jobs, and to put a kind of a frame on it is we are already in conversations and works with both Ørsted and US Wind for significant improvements to Trade Point Atlantic to create the supply chain network that Maryland can capture if it continues to build out the offshore wind leaseholds that have been committed to these developers. And what we're asking the Public Service Commission to do today is to take positive action on these applications and to ensure that both developers can build out the leaseholds that have been committed to them. We have an opportunity to bring real jobs and a new 21st century industry to Maryland and to Baltimore. And more importantly, we have the opportunity to bring steel right back to Sparrows Point. And that means real jobs, real impact to the state of Maryland, at the same time saving our ecology and the future of our communities and the future of our state for generations to come. Because climate change is real, and we have the opportunity to take action and convert our energy resources to renewable sources like offshore wind. So we encourage your support of both applications. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on our list is David Quillen.
Go to the next speaker.
Okay, next on our list, Mr. Chairman, is Jimmy Aston. If Mr. Aston is not here, then next on the list is Michael Walsh.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm speaking as a birder and a conservationist on the in favor of the proposal to expand the offshore wind project. I think with the appropriate mitigation strategies such as powering down during peak migration and using bird-friendly lighting, I think the number of fatalities that have been projected for such a project can be reduced, and that in the event, anyway, it is an acceptable trade-off in order to reap the benefits of renewable energy. I think the impact of climate change is a greater danger to the avian populations than the possibility of collisions with offshore wind facilities. In addition to that, my fishing friends tell me that structures may indeed provide benefits to them out there, especially recreational fishermen. At 13 miles from the shore, there would be little visual impact. I fail to see the negative impact of views to people who come to the beach. Maybe if they're high up in a high rise, they can see them out there, but as was stated before, there are some really unpleasant sights, particularly I would say the planes that fly back and forth along the beach. So at worst, these things will be distant blips on the horizon or distant lights at night. There are the benefits, I think, of using wind power and more renewable energy certainly outweighs most of the other concerns that people have. And I urge the commission to take all of that into their consideration. Thank you for the chance to speak.
Thank you. Next on our list is Cindy Dillon. Next after Cindy would be Toby Perkins.
Hi, thank you. My name is Toby Perkins. Before retiring to Worcester County, Maryland in 2015, I worked for 15 years in the public sector. And after that, I worked for 32 years in the private sector, where I wrote business plans and helped to win new contracts. So I've seen the world from both public service and private investment angles. I'm in favor of wind energy. I have a message for the politicians and businessmen who speak against wind energy in Worcester County today. Ladies and gentlemen, if our investments don't grow, they shrink. Our investments must grow just to stay the same value, and they must grow even faster to increase. This wind energy project is not just one wonderful new business opportunity. It's the leading edge of a whole new technology and industry that will speed up investment growth and create new business opportunities for the citizens here. It will bring more year-round customers, more permanent residents with more money into Worcester County's economy and help nearly every one of our businesses to grow. It's a future wave that can arrive now and last as long as we have a seacoast. And far from destroying that seacoast, it will actually help to save it. Your main objection to this wind energy proposal that I've heard is ridiculous. Most people don't come for a week to a place like Ocean City for the view. And the people who do come to Worcester County, who do cherish our seacoast, most of them would love to see wind turbines here. You know that. Maryland is open for business, is it? Why are you trying so hard to close down Worcester County then? Why are you taking this anti-business position? If you'll excuse me, you're spitting into the wind. I asked the Public Service Commission to help Worcester County grow. Thanks for hearing me today. I'll yield my time.
Thank you. Next on our list will be Sherry McNutt, followed by Danny Robinson and Kim Koble.
Hi, this is Sherry McNutt. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can.
Okay,
We
great. Great. I'm a full-time year-round resident of Ocean City, Maryland. And I really appreciate this opportunity this evening to show my support for the Skipjack Wind Energy Project to the Public Service Commission. And I would agree with our previous speaker that the angst and opposition regarding the wind turbines is very misplaced from my perspective. That perspective includes being a homeowner along the Maryland ocean side. I do not believe that seeing turbines is a blight on the horizon or that it will negatively impact the important tourist industry that OC relies on. With the proposed distance of 13 miles from our shoreline, the turbines will not provide a significant sight barrier at all. The turbines will be far less intrusive than the airplanes that a previous gentleman already discussed, but I'm going to highlight them also, that trail their ad banners up and down the Ocean City shoreline every day in the summer. More importantly, the project is far more environmentally helpful, given that the amount of fuel utilized in aerial advertising is not easily or readily able to be carbon offset. This new and growing technology will bring over 1,000 new high-paying jobs to Maryland and the Eastern Shore, and have already expanded educational opportunities at several local higher education entities. Families and children and younger vacationers are the very group that the OC resort business so diligently courts. Yet those vacationers are in fact more environmentally conscious and growing more so every day. Being able to support areas that are showing a commitment to reducing the carbon footprint are very important to them. And I can speak because I have a daughter in that younger age range, and they are very concerned about coming to Ocean City because it lacks recycling, and now because of the opposition to this wind turbine project. Being able to support areas that are showing a commitment to reducing our carbon footprint are very important to these young people. Delmarva businesses should in fact embrace and tout the fact that they support important steps such as offshore wind energy, which will reduce our dependence on carbon emitting energy sources. Having visited Deep Creek, Maryland for many years, the presence of numerous wind turbines has not negatively impacted the many visitors and homeowners and property values along that area with the turbines that follow around the mountains around the lake. And I can attest to that because we used to go there every summer. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to show my support for the proposed Skipjack Wind Energy Project, and I encourage the Commission to adopt this.
Thank you. Next on our list is Danny Robinson, followed by Kim Koble and Dana Kester McCabe.
Hey there, I'm Danny Robinson. I live here in Ocean City and work with the view of the ocean. I like to walk early in the morning on the boardwalk, and I pass hundreds of people watching the amazing spectacle of a sunrise above the ocean. They're often pointing at dolphins or whales playing in the horizon, and it's just such a beautiful sight. At the restaurant I work at, we decided to take an informal poll of the locals and tourists to hear their arguments for and against these wind farms, and we honestly couldn't find anyone in favor of them. So if no one here in Ocean City, Maryland is in favor of the wind turbines, why are we about to witness the complete looting of our natural resources and tourism industry? I understand that we, the people of this little community, are the only thing standing between the big wind cartels and the tens of billions of dollars in subsidies available through the production tax credit. You see, wind energy has been sold as a source of clean energy or green jobs, but that's been proven false. A recent Harvard article with the title, "Wind Farms Will Cause More Environmental Impact Than Previously Thought," it explains how these big wind syndicates and foreign corporations are making claims about the efficiency of wind turbines that are inflated by hundreds of times using faulty models. The truth, when they analyzed real-world data, is that the turbines require way too much land to make them efficient. Each turbine destroys 4 acres of fragile ocean floor. This is not the answer to climate change. This is a money grab. It's sad to see that seemingly everyone has their hand in this pot too. Look at the list of speakers. They're tripping over each other to plunder our beautiful ocean and run off with their pockets full of taxpayer subsidies. You'll hear from steel unions, electrical unions, developers, groups claiming to care about the environment, but obviously funded by big wind. When you hear them use the words clean energy or green jobs, that's your clue to know who's part of this swindle. These groups don't live here, don't vacation here, and don't belong here. Where are the studies measuring the vibrations caused by these turbines and the horrible effects on our sea life? Why aren't we talking about the many millions of gallons of heated seawater that's going to be pumped back into our ocean? When you sign on to speak, let us know where you live, so we know if you're from this area or you're just coming here to rob and sell our natural resources. I live and work here in Ocean City, and I speak for a lot of people when I say I do not want to have to one day explain to my grandchildren what a sunrise used to look like in Ocean City, Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kim Koble, and then followed by Dana Kester McCabe and Kathy Phillips.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Kim Koble, and I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland League of Conservation Voters. We have 40,000 members throughout the state, including in Ocean City. I'm here to testify in strong support of the proposed Phase 2 development of offshore wind in Maryland. For nearly a decade, Maryland LCV has been a partner with the Maryland General Assembly to aggressively pursue offshore wind procurement in order to meet our state's renewable portfolio standards and our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. We fought to pass the Offshore Wind Energy Act in 2013 and to expand the program in the Clean Energy Jobs Act in 2019. We prioritized the passage of these landmark bills because we know that the climate crisis is one that requires bold, ambitious, forward-thinking action. Climate threatens all of our communities and families, and Maryland must lead the way to confront the existential threat. But it also provides us with an opportunity for innovation and for transformation of our economy from one that relies on diminishing and polluting resources to one that cultivates clean and limitless energy in the form of offshore wind. Offshore wind stands to not only help us to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, but support hundreds of local, permanent, family-supporting union jobs and boost our state's economy by as much as $6.9 billion over the next the next 20 years. This economic driver is being borne out by the announcements by both of the companies who were awarded lease development rights during phase 1 of production facilities to be located right here in Maryland. The companies seeking to invest in our state are committed to a diverse, well-compensated, and well-trained workforce that expand opportunities for Maryland, owned and operated small, minority, and women-owned businesses that will prove transformative to the economy of the state. Maryland LCV strongly support and urges the Public Service Commission to swiftly act and approve the projects before them, to advance the development of offshore wind, taking the steps that allow Maryland to be a national leader in building offshore wind turbines in Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Dana Kester McCabe, followed by Kathy Phillips and Jim Rapp.
Is Kathy Phillips here? Is Jim Rapp here? We'll keep moving down the list, Madam Secretary, followed by Stacy Paulson, Linda Lindsay, Madeline Adams. Is Ms. Paulson here?
Yes.
Please proceed.
My name is Stacy Paulson. I live in Ocean Pines, Maryland, just across the Route 90 bridge from Ocean City in Worcester County. I'm here to support wind turbines off the coast of Maryland. I know there's been rumblings from a small minority, but just about everyone I know is for this. The Maryland project is especially good because unlike other lease areas, it's outside the horseshoe crab sanctuary and bird migration routes. It's also inside the shipping lanes. And the fact of the matter is this project will create around 3,500 construction jobs and at least 100 ongoing maintenance jobs in the state. We need to get this done if Ocean City is going to have any chance of making it to the end of the 21st century. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I do understand we've had some people on the phone that have had trouble unmuting. We're going to resolve that. We're going to try our best to resolve that. I see Miss Kathy Phillips just arrived. Ms. Phillips, would you like to speak? Miss Linda Lindsay.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for providing the opportunity for citizens to speak to the clean wind energy turbines proposed to be placed offshore to the east coast of Ocean City, Maryland. I am in favor of the project, and it is my understanding that most Ocean City residents approve of wind turbines
offshore to provide clean energy. The professional and recreational fishing communities look forward to these structures, which will provide new fisheries because the turbines will be placed far enough apart so to navigate through and around. Building offshore turbines in other communities has been a tourist attraction, not a deterrent. I cannot imagine that vacationers will cancel excursions to Ocean City due to these tiny
Miss Lindsay?
visual blips on the horizon.
Ms. Lindsay?
Here on the Mid-Atlantic coast, we observe and live the results of climate change. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we had trouble
sorry?
hearing some of your comments. If
Shall
you
I
could turn off
continue?
your video and yes, if you could just turn off your video, it may be slowing your connection down. Thank you.
Okay. Building offshore turbines in other communities has been a tourist attraction, not a deterrent. I cannot imagine that vacationers will cancel excursions to Ocean City due to these tiny visual blips on the horizon. Here on the Mid-Atlantic coast, we observe and live the results of climate change. Our town is drowning under the current rate of sea level rise. The west side of St. Louis Avenue is now underwater during annual spring high tides and increasingly during very heavy rain events. Confronting climate change and its results for coastal communities is an urgent need the world over, but especially places like Ocean City. Annually replenishing the beach will not save the town's western flank. Many coastal societies around the world have already been obliterated by rising sea levels. I give a personal perspective at the end as an Ocean City beachfront resident. Watching the daily sunrises and cyclical moonrises over the eastern horizon through all the seasons enhances my life. The colors that can paint the morning sky before the sun peaks over the Atlantic, and the lightning-like blasts of light that sparkle on the waves under a white moon are a phenomenon that I am lucky to witness from my balcony. Those tiny visual blips made by wind turbines on the horizon will not hinder my appreciation of nature. Rather, knowing those blips on the horizon are producing clean energy and reducing our carbon footprint will give me satisfaction and engender hope that our ocean paradise will last longer. We must first mitigate and then eradicate global warming and protect our planet for the sake of our children, my 8 grandchildren, their generation, and the ones to come. Wind farms are a part of that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to call Madeline Adams, and then after Madeline speaks, we will try and unmute everyone in the room and to give the folks on the phone another opportunity to try and speak to see if that helps with some of the phone issues that we've been hearing about. So I will go back through the list to make sure we didn't miss anyone that was trying to get on by phone, and then we will continue on with the list as scheduled after that. So please, if Madeline Adams is here, it is your turn to speak.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm the president of the Wicomico Environmental Trust, WET for short, a grassroots environmental group in Wicomico County. WET strongly supports the applications submitted by Skipjack Offshore Energy and U.S. Wind under Maryland's Clean Energy Jobs Act of 2019. We urge the Commission to award offshore wind renewable energy credits to this project. As shown in the August 2021 report by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it's vital that all nations, including the United States, drastically reduce consumption of fossil fuels and production of carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases. We have only a brief window to do this if we are to have any chance of avoiding the most violently disruptive consequences of global climate change. To drastically reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, we need to quickly develop sources of clean energy, and offshore wind, which is clean, renewable, and abundant, is a key part of the solution. The majority of Marylanders polled support the development of offshore wind energy, recognizing how vitally important it is to develop this abundant source of clean energy in order to make it possible for us to do our part to combat global climate change. The Wicomico Environmental Trust urges you to award offshore wind renewable energy credits to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will now try to unmute everyone to see if we can get the folks on the phone back and give them one more opportunity to try. So I will go back through the list. I will unmute everyone now. And we will try to go back through the list to catch folks that might have missed their opportunity earlier via phone issues. So we will go back to David Quillen. If not, then next on the list was Jimmy Aston. Followed by Cindy Dillon.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I'm sorry that I couldn't get on video before, but I'm on now. And if you can hear me, I'll go ahead. Chairman Stanek and other members of the Public Service Commission. My name is Cindy Dillon and I live in Ocean Pines, Maryland. Thanks for this opportunity to share my opinion on the expansion of the offshore wind projects off the coast of Ocean City. I respectfully urge approval of the proposals for additional offshore wind generation. The decision regarding offshore wind turbines should not become a political football. This is about the future of our coastal towns, of our state, of our planet. Climate change is real. We bear a large share of the responsibility for it, and we can fix it if we act now. As has been mentioned, and according to climatecentral.org, it is the burning of fossil fuels which emits heat-trapping pollution that's the main cause of climate change. And the resulting warmer air and warmer ocean leads to sea level rise. Maryland is the third most prone state to sea level rise in the United States, behind only Florida and Louisiana. Sea level, due to climate change, is projected to rise 2.5 to 4 feet by the end of the century. The likelihood of a 5-foot flood for Ocean City by 2030 is 33 to 56%. Our actions now can mitigate the severity of the rise in sea level, and offshore wind energy is Maryland's largest clean energy resource. I hear the concerns regarding property values decreasing and tourism decreasing because of the alteration in view due to the turbines. Seriously? What about the parade of boats touting all-you-can-eat buffets and the planes that are trailing banners obstructing the pristine view of the ocean? Besides which, these concerns regarding plummeting property values and decreased tourist traffic are more than likely unfounded. Near Block Island in Rhode Island, local tourism businesses reported a substantial increase in boat tours and fishing near the turbines, and some increased tourism from people wanting to see the turbines up close. A peer-reviewed study found increased occupancy at Airbnbs during July and August of 2019. Some might say, why does Ocean City have to bear the brunt of fixing this? And to that I say, we have an opportunity to show our country, even the world, that we want to do our part to stem climate change, that we see what is coming and we are rising to the occasion, that we are proud of our decision to support these offshore wind projects, announcing broadly, come visit and share our vision. The fact of the matter is, if we don't act now, there will be no Ocean City due to the current rate of sea level rise. It won't matter what you see from high rises, because Ocean City, as we currently know it, will no longer exist. We need to embrace this opportunity. We need to do this for our children, for our grandchildren, for the planet. And then we need to shout it from the rooftops. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and for coming back to me.
Thank you. Next on the list of folks that might have been muted via the phone was Dana Kester McCabe. If not, next on the list was Kathy Phillips.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. To the Commission, thank you for this opportunity to give public comment tonight on this important matter. My name is Kathy Phillips, and I'm the Executive Director of Assateague Coastal Trust in Berlin, Maryland. I'm also a 45-year resident of Ocean City and Worcester County, Maryland. In consideration of the enormous potential benefits to the health of the Worcester County, Ocean City, Maryland coastal watershed, Assateague Coastal Trust supports the responsible development of offshore wind energy infrastructure that is carefully sited to minimize potential impacts to the ocean's biological and physical resources, while also sited to allow for the economical transfer of energy to shore. Delmarva Coast has significant potential to produce energy from wind, and a growing number of government agencies and citizens support the capture of that potential energy. Local wind energy has the potential to reduce air pollutants from conventional electricity generation, such as coal-fired power plants, which currently degrade the coastal bay's watershed and reduce fossil fuel carbon emissions, and would reduce fossil fuel carbon emissions that could increase climate change impacts to our coastal watershed. Wind farm infrastructure such as turbine foundations may serve as an artificial reef, increasing abundance and diversity of species through increased availability of shelter, habitat, and food. However, speaking on behalf of myself as a resident of Worcester County, I wish to note for the record that this is not the first time Ocean City residents feared for the financial viability of their town, or the loss of their viewshed, or the loss of their sunrises. In the 1980s, when the state began the Ocean City Beach Replenishment Project, the projected sand dune construction from 33rd Street to the Delaware line had oceanfront property owners in an uproar. They would never be able to rent their lower level condominiums if the dune blocked the view of the ocean. The hue and cry was about loss of tax revenues and the untimely demise of the town of Ocean City. As we know today, all those lower level condos remain fully occupied during the summer months. And indeed, today the town has volunteer condominium owners who proudly maintain the cleanliness of the dune in front of their buildings and sometimes thrill at the sighting of a red fox or migrating birds enjoying the vegetation on the sand dune. 20 years from now, our offshore wind farms will also be claimed proudly by new residents and visitors of Ocean City. Tours by charter boats out to the turbines will keep the county commercial harbor busy, and recreational fishing off the coral infrastructure that envelops the bases of the turbines will keep the local economy flourishing. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And then last on our list of folks we're hoping to get by phone is Jim Rapp.
Hey, can you hear me? I'm on video too.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Jim Rapp, and I am president of the board of the Assateague Coastal Trust. I split my time between Baltimore and Salisbury, and I am in favor of the offshore wind project off the Ocean City coast. I also operate wildlife and bird watching tours on Delmarva's coast. We charter boats in Ocean City and other coastal towns along the Delmarva coastline to watch and photograph birds and marine mammals. I've heard some opponents of offshore wind development raise concerns about impacts to birds and wildlife. The #1 issue affecting bird populations is global temperature rise. Climate change caused by human activity is putting 2/3 of North American birds at risk of extinction. As the waters rise, the birds are forced to relocate to find favorable habitat, and they may not survive if we keep on at the rate we are. With impacts to migratory birds minimal outside of 10 miles and impacts to whales and shipping lanes a serious problem outside 28 miles, The lease area is well sited at 12 to 27 miles off the coast. I grew up in Salisbury and I spent every summer visiting Ocean City. I'll still be coming to visit Ocean City with wind turbines off the coast if there's still an Ocean City to visit. The town will not survive at the current rate of sea level rise. The west side of St. Louis Avenue is now underwater during annual spring high tides. There is an urgent need to confront climate change for the world, but especially Ocean City and our coastal resort towns. We have a moral obligation to do this for the kids building sandcastles on Ocean City beaches. It would be unethical to sit by and do nothing as Ocean City is lost to the sea. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will return back to the list of folks to be called. And so next up is Beverly Thomas, followed by Bronwyn Betts and Charlene Carr.
And as Ms. Thomas approaches the microphone, just for the purposes of planning your evening tonight, we have about 3 more hours of speakers in the event that everybody who registers. So just keep that in mind, please. Ms. Thomas, good evening. Is Ms. Bronwyn Betts with us? Charlene Carr? Raymond Kasmark? John? Hello? Is this Charlene Carr? Charlene, we cannot hear you. We have a very bad connection. We'll come back to you in a moment. We cannot hear you, Ms. Carr. Raymond Kasmark.
Thank you, Chairman Stanek and Commissioners. My name is Raymond Kasmark, and I'm a resident of Annapolis, Maryland, and a proud member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I rise in full enthusiastic support of U.S. Wind's application before the Commission. The commitments made by U.S. Wind and to the workers, businesses, and utility customers of Maryland demonstrate the seriousness of their intentions to ensure that the offshore wind industry creates and sustains a local, diverse, skilled, and well-compensated workforce, which in turn delivers a superior project and a substantial economic impact throughout the state of Maryland. Their business model and application set the bar for all offshore wind applications and should be approved as soon as possible to truly maximize the above stated benefits. As a side note, I had recently had a good fortune to go out and visit the 2 CVOW pilot project turbines off the coast of Virginia Beach. And oddly enough, the boat stopped at 12 miles offshore, and that's when the shore line disappeared. So these turbines will not be an eyesore for the community and provide benefits for decades to come. Thanks for the opportunity to speak and for your consideration of my testimony.
Thank you. I believe, Ms. Carr, if you try to turn your video off and just speak, it might help your audio. If not, we might have to request you to call in. Unfortunately, Ms. Carr, that's helping. I will reach to you and provide you with the phone number to see if we can get you to call in. In the meantime, I will call John Rosenberger.
Okay, as the secretary helps out Ms. Carr, and Ms. Carr, I'm going to ask you to mute. Ms. Carr, if you mute your microphone, the secretary will help you offline. We'll turn to Mike Dunn.
Not on mute anymore. Okay, good.
If you have an open mic, if you could please turn it off, including Beverly Thomas and Mary O'Shea, if you could please turn your mics off. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, hi, it's Mike Dunn. Thank you so much for
Done.
what you're doing tonight, and thanks to all the commission members. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee, and the Greater Salisbury Committee is a nonprofit business group here in the Salisbury area. We've been in full support of offshore wind since this whole concept rolled down the pike a few years ago. We have great respect for our friends in Ocean City, and we know that these are difficult times for them, and we're not here tonight in any way to disparage or to say anything negative about their point of view. We completely respect that. Our point of view has always been, we've been in full support of these ORECs really for one reason, and that's economic development and its jobs. We know that we need to diversify our workforce here on Delmarva, and we know that that is already happening as a result of what's going on. We've heard earlier tonight from the folks at Trade Point Atlantic and the tremendous economic benefits coming their way. We know that on October the 14th, at Crystal Steel in Federalsburg, there's a big announcement with Ørsted. We know that the Archon Safety Training Facility here in Salisbury and in Pocomoke is already up and running and training in safety training, people already working in the offshore industry. And lastly, the Business Network for Offshore Wind and Ørsted and US Wind have contacted the Greater Salisbury Committee and some local employers, and they're going to tell us, because we hear about jobs, right? But we don't really know what those jobs might be. So they're going to put on some seminars, one in Baltimore and one down here at the shore. So I also want to applaud the Public Service Commission for kind of ordering increased collaboration and communication by US Wind and Ørsted with the elected officials in Ocean City. I applaud you for making that happen. And all indications are that those increased efforts of communication and collaboration are occurring. So again, thank you for your masterful job of making tonight happen. And the Greater Salisbury Committee is in full support of the applications in front of you. Thanks you all for your time and what you're doing.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is John Rosenberger. I'm not sure if you heard me when I hit *6 to come on.
We did not. Mr. Rosenberger, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide comment this evening.
There's a lot of background
tonight regarding
Someone's got their mic on.
What's that? Okay, you want me to start again?
Yes, Mr. Rosenberg, just hold on 1 second. If everybody could please ensure that your microphone is off. Mr. Court Reporter, can you hear Mr. Rosenberg?
I got a lot of static in the background. I believe someone's got their mic on.
Okay. Miss Barbara Groover, your microphone is open. If you could shut it, please. I'll turn off my microphone. Miss Beth, if you could turn off yours. And then Mr. Rosenberger, please proceed.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide comment this evening regarding the applications before your commission for offshore wind in Maryland. I'm not typically known for brevity, but I'm going to be brief tonight. I'm actually traveling, but I wanted to be included in the comments. I'm a lifelong resident of Maryland and a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the IBEW. In my official capacity with the IBEW, I seek out and work to secure employment opportunities for our IBEW members, some of which live in Ocean City. I speak tonight in support of Maryland offshore wind projects. The benefit to Maryland jobs, wise and incredible. It is estimated 3,600 direct jobs will be created by these projects, and that's not including the potential jobs created at Sparrows Point. If awarded the opportunity, the IBEW is prepared to bring extensively trained high-skilled professionals to the project. U.S. Wind's projects and Orsted's project will provide family-sustaining wages and benefits. It's jobs like these that IBEWs build lifelong careers from. Again, I speak in complete support of Maryland's offshore wind as a Maryland resident and an IBEW member interested in potential jobs that could be created in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, next on the list is Jolie Jacobs, followed by Tiara Strum and Dennis Evans.
Hi, and thank you to all the commissioners for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Jolie Jacobs, and I am here as an offshore wind associate on behalf of Environment Maryland and our members across the state in strong support of approving the maximum amount of offshore wind that the state has the opportunity to build. Environment Maryland is a statewide environmental advocacy organization that works to create a cleaner, greener Maryland. I chose to work for offshore wind with Environment Maryland because I grew up in a coastal town directly impacted by sea level rise and climate change. Maryland is the third most vulnerable state to sea level rise, and it's incredibly important to me that I do what I can to help protect people living in Maryland's 3,000 miles of tidal shoreline. By harnessing clean energy, such as offshore wind, we can limit the impacts from climate change while building a cleaner, healthier world. Maryland is already experiencing the negative impacts of our reliance on fossil fuels, exemplified by increased temperatures, polluted air and water, and extreme weather. By transitioning to renewable energy, Maryland can build a stronger, safer environment and limit the impacts of climate change. Maryland should not wait to take advantage of the clean energy resource flowing off its shores. We can continue to embrace the promise of clean renewable electricity here in Maryland by maximizing the amount of offshore wind built off the coast. America's abundant renewable energy resources, coupled with energy efficiency measures and technological advances that have made renewable energy cheaper and better than ever, open the possibility of transitioning our entire economy to run on 100% renewable energy. Awarding these credits would enable Maryland to move towards harnessing its immense offshore wind potential. According to the report Offshore Wind for America, Maryland has enough technical offshore wind potential to meet 159% of the state's 2019 electricity usage. Ultimately, we need to use every possible available resource to cut carbon emissions and slow the effects of climate change. Offshore wind stands more than ready to take on this challenge. Offshore wind will help provide renewable electricity to Marylanders while ensuring cleaner air to breathe and cleaner water to drink. On behalf of Environment Maryland, we ask that you take the next step to maximize the approval of offshore wind in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Charlene has joined us by phone, so we're going to try and give her one more opportunity.
Thank you very kindly. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Charlene Carr. I am the Chief Financial Officer of the Purple Moose Saloon on the boardwalk located in Ocean City, Maryland. As a representative for our business, we are for offshore wind. As a personal preference, I am for offshore wind. I have traveled to many places, and particularly out west, where these gorgeous windmills are. And I don't understand. First off, when we're driving, they're white, and so they blended into the area. You really didn't see them. They weren't such a monstrosity as everyone makes you believe that they are. And on a shoreline, I can't really imagine that we're going to see them. But bottom line, if we don't start conserving energy, conservation, and this is one way to do that, by providing clean energy, then we are headed for a terrible, terrible ending. And I'd hate to be the one telling our children and our visitors that we didn't take a stand and do something that could improve our environment. So I thank you for your time, and go wind.
Thank you. Next on our list was Tiara Strum, followed by Dennis Evans and Dan Guy Folks.
Thank you, Chairman Stanek, and to the Commission. My name is Tiara Strum. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Strum Contracting. I encourage the Commission to continue advancing offshore wind in the local supply chain in Maryland by awarding the second round of ORECs. Now is the time to take advantage of this once-in-a-generation opportunity to secure clean, renewable, and affordable power and to grow our state's economy by creating jobs. How would I know? Because Strum Contracting has already created some of these clean energy jobs. As a small, minority-owned, women-led heavy civil construction firm, Strum Contracting has already experienced growth through creating new full-time permanent positions through the work we perform for the Met Mass Tower and port enhancements at Trade Point Atlantic. Moreover, Strum Contracting has partnered with local nonprofit workforce development organizations such as JARC Baltimore to hire locally and local residents from Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Its residents earned wages between $22 to $28 base and $7 to $15 fringe that covered healthcare plans, contributions to a qualified retirement plan, paid time off, and other benefits, while creating a career ladder with upward mobility to gain additional industry credentials. Furthermore, as a direct benefactor of the offshore wind industry, Strum Contracting was able to secure a 20,000 square foot new headquarters in Baltimore City that will allow us to secure secondary steel contracts for the Maryland projects, which ultimately will allow us to create more full-time jobs and hire locally within our community. And as a testament to the offshore wind industry, Strum Contracting recently hosted Governor Larry Hogan on September 15th for Small Business Roundtable during Small Business Week. This opportunity would have not been able and been possible without the opportunity received from being a direct benefactor of the offshore wind industry and being owners' representatives for U.S. Wind with the Met Mass Tower and working alongside opportunities with the port enhancements that Orsted provided Strum Contracting. And as one small success as an entry to offshore wind marketplace confirms the reality of the numbers of benefits the state legislator imagined 5 years ago, we, Strum Contracting, has successfully illustrated how the offshore wind industry can elevate a small business such as ours. The offshore wind industry has also catapulted our growth and allow us to create more clean energy jobs. The time is now for Maryland to go into overdrive with the new agenda for achieving the nation's sustainable energy. Maryland must get back into the lead. We must continue the momentum in advancing projects here in Maryland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list is Dennis Evans, followed by Dan Guy Fawkes, and then next would be Dana Kester McCabe.
Mr. Phelps, it looks like you're up.
All right, thank you, sir. I am all for wind turbines. The more, the better. In addition to being a green source of power, wind turbines have been shown to decrease the impact of hurricanes and tropical storms on coastal regions. And for all the concerns that we've heard about tourism, I think that ecological disasters like storms and flooding and rising sea levels are a much bigger threat than the appearance of wind turbines. I've taken cross-country road trips through the Midwest the past 2 summers, and driving through states like Iowa and Oklahoma, the wind turbines dotting the landscape and lining the horizon is a beautiful sight, in my opinion. this past summer, aware from the last Ocean City meeting about this, that there was concern about the placement of wind turbines off Ocean City's shores. I took note of the distance from wind turbines as I drove towards and past them using the odometer. And based on that ad hoc research, I can say that 13 flat miles away, is like wind turbines look minuscule from that distance, and in my opinion, adorable. I question the claim heard earlier that studies show a loss of tourism correlating with wind turbines. While these are admittedly not the picturesque windmills of Amsterdam or Holland, I know from personal experience that a horizon dotted by turbines is a calming sight. I believe that they could in fact be tourism draws. Saving the environment is very hot with the youth, and Ocean City should capitalize on this and tout the presence of its wind farms, in my opinion. Wind turbines, rather than being detrimental to the fishing industry, I think in the big picture are beneficial. The studies I've read say that they act like artificial reefs. Because commercial fishing is limited directly around them, scientists have described those areas as de facto marine sanctuaries. And the seabed ecosystems that have been pulverized for 100 years by fishermen dragging heavy nets across the seafloor are now recovering in places where turbines have been built. All of this brings in an increase in marine life that has a ripple effect and means more fish everywhere and more dolphins for the tourists to enjoy watching. I know that the wind energy companies aren't building these wind farms out of the goodness of their great hearts. And so it is important that our elected officials hold these companies to their promises so that the benefits of wind turbines, both the ecological ones and the economic ones, can be fully realized. I live in Ocean City. I would like to retire there. I would like my house to still be there by the time I retire, and after for my children to enjoy when I'm gone. And so for that reason, I encourage the commission to approve these ORECs and in general to support the growth of offshore wind energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So next on the list was Dana Kester McCabe, followed by Beverly Thomas, and then Jonathan Cooper.
Evening. I'm Dana Kester McCabe. I'm a resident of Worcester County. I live in Bishopville, Maryland. I moved here in 1980, so 41 years resident of this beautiful place. I'm an artist, a writer, and a photographer. And I very much support wind, offshore wind. I'm always looking for scenes to take pictures of wildlife where there's nothing human involved, no human structures. But I think it's kind of selfish of me desire that instead of this, and I'll tell you why. As we decommission power plants because they're old, the technology is not as good, they're not as clean, for whatever reason, we're going to need to meet capacity. And we have an unending hunger for energy. And so we need to meet that capacity with clean energy, because the amount of energy we're going to need is never going to lessen. You can tell people to not use as much, you can tell people to lower their carbon footprint. That's not going to happen. People just don't think that way. So I believe this is the best way possible. From what I understand, most people won't be able to see the wind turbines, certainly not from the beach. If you've ever been on our beach, you know that most days it's too hazy to see past a mile or two beyond the beach. On those beautiful clear fall days, like tomorrow, maybe you'll see them barely, very barely you'll see them. You'll see them better from higher up in the condos and hotels, but by and large, they're not anyone's vacation, and you're not going to stop people from coming here and enjoying themselves. So I say, let's embrace them. Let's see if we can't make them a tourist destination. a great place for our sports fishermen, fish people to go out and catch fish. It'll be a great place to see pelagic animals, birds in the winter. And it's a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. So I am very much for it. And I want to thank the hosts and the commission for listening to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Beverly Thomas, followed by Jonathan Cooper and Larry Ryan.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, I don't know whether you're going to, the video I think is not going to come through. My name is Beverly Thomas, and I've lived in Berlin, about 5 miles from Ocean City, as a full-time resident for the last 18 years. Also, I was born and grew up in Wycomico County. Thank you for the opportunity to share my perspectives in support of the offshore wind energy projects off the coast of Ocean City. To me, the most important and urgent reason to install clean energy systems is to help combat the effects of climate change. Several European nations have been using wind energy for over 20 years, while we in the US are just beginning the first phases of wind turbine energy. We need to become independent of fossil fuels and develop more sources of clean renewable energy. Wind energy is one of the quickest and most readily available sources of clean energy, and Maryland needs to join other Mid-Atlantic states in leading the way to clean energy independence. We're leaving a tragic legacy to our children and grandchildren by continuing to drag our feet on developing these new clean energy sources. Another important reason for installing wind energy locally in our particular area is to provide some key economic development with some good paying technical jobs. New energy technology could enable some of our young people to stay on the Eastern Shore instead of always having to leave the area to find a better job. With some creative partnerships between federal, state, and local entities, our young graduates could be trained for jobs that really contribute to our economy while giving them opportunities they couldn't currently find in this area. The Eastern Shore has Warwick Tech and other educational institutions that stand as partners to provide the kind of training for these private sector jobs in the wind energy industry. And of course, most importantly, the wind energy generated from turbines can provide electricity eventually for up to 500,000 plus homes at much lower rates than residents are currently paying. Many residents of Ocean City, I know, are expressing concerns about the impact of wind turbines on the robust tourist industry there, and we all love Ocean City. But the studies done recently, especially by the University of Rhode Island, have actually shown that tourism grows as a result of wind turbines being installed. We have to consider that without some drastic positive steps to mitigate climate change, there may not even be an Ocean City to visit. There are already issues there with uncontrolled flooding, and the town is not likely to survive many more years with the current rate of sea level rise. The beach replenishment efforts are not going to be able to combat a warmer, higher sea over time. To keep the oceans from getting warmer, we need to develop new and cleaner energy sources. And a cleaner ocean should also increase fishing opportunities and draw more tourists here. If the turbines are built according to the scientific studies, between 12 and 27 miles offshore, research says that both bird populations and sea life, including dolphins and whales, will not be harmed. Building further out than 27 miles could cause some problems for the whales and other sea life. The sooner we take action on this wind energy, the sooner we'll start combating global warming and taking steps to save our beaches, our food supplies, our people, and our planet. I hope that the Commission will work together with all the entities so we can resolve our differences and move forward on these wind energy projects. Thank you so much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Next on our list is Jonathan Cooper, followed by Larry Ryan and Chris Basin. Next on our list after Jonathan Cooper was Larry Ryan, followed by Chris Basin and Al Reno.
We've known since 1988 when Dr. James Hansen, the NASA climatologist, testified in front of the U.S. Senate that our planet is definitely warming and the cause is from human use of fossil fuels. My name is Larry Ryan. I'm a member of St. Peter's Lutheran Church on 103rd Street. This is my third testimony to the Public Service Commission about the efficacy of offshore wind. The promise offshore wind brings to the Eastern Shore is abundant, renewable energy and a thriving economy. In 2021, the debate is over. The data is clear. The planet is warming and sea levels are rising. Greenhouse gases are the culprit, and careless use of fossil fuels are the cause. For every gallon of gasoline burned, 20 pounds of CO2, the most abundant greenhouse gas, is released into our atmosphere. The last time there was this much CO2 in our atmosphere was over 2.6 million years ago, and the average worldwide temperature was 4 degrees centigrade higher, and sea levels were over 20 feet higher. The honest pursuit of the 2050 carbon neutrality goal is becoming the economic foundation for Generation Z. Transitioning from so much fossil fuel use is their indicator of hope for the future. Our posterity is eager for the life opportunities, the clean energy future. Why Ocean City leaders don't see the hope offshore wind provides visitors to our coastal resort is hard to fathom. The deny delay strategy used by town leaders is counterproductive toward being an attractive and resort to their economic growth goals. Mayor and council policies only represent a small segment of wealthy property owners and the interests of the fossil fuel industry that renewable energy development threatens. I have become a member of the sustainability table for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America since I last testified to the Public Service Commission on January 18th, 2020 in Ocean City. We advocate for sustainable solutions to the climate crisis we face. These solutions will address the root causes of increased demands from the Lutheran immigration and refugee programs, the World Food Program, and the Worldwide Lutheran Disaster Relief Agency. Stop this delay and utilize the awesome power of wind energy. One 14 megawatt Haliade X offshore wind turbine will generate up to 74 gigawatts of electricity a year, saving up to 52,000 metric tons of CO2. I will be an ELCA delegate to the Glasgow, Scotland COP26 summit beginning October 31st. Our delegation seeks faith leader unity behind a climate justice initiative that will give hope to lives that have no voice to address many injustices created by the climate crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on our list is Chris Basin, followed by Al Reno and Sherry Hott.
Hi, my name is Chris Basin. I'm the Executive Director with the Delaware Center for the Inland Bays. My organization is a nonprofit whose mission it is to restore the health of Rehoboth Bay, Little Assawoman Bay, and Indian River Bay. Our bays are directly connected with the Maryland coastal bays, and they have similar environmental characteristics and economic benefits to our communities. Although the applications for offshore wind generation are off the Maryland coast, the benefits of the project will extend to the regional environment and economy of Delmarva. So the Center for the Inland Bays is supportive of Maryland's clean energy goals and the development of offshore wind. We're also aware that our area is being examined for bringing the cables from the farms on shore, and so long as the environmental impacts of such a process would be minimized and avoided, we are supportive of that as well. The environmental benefits of these farms will be tremendous through the displacement of non-renewable forms of energy and the reduction in associated pollution from greenhouse gases and nitrogen oxides that result from combustion and are ultimately deposited in our waterways. For our coast, there's projections of sea level rise under continued trends of greenhouse gas emissions that are up to 4.7 feet by the end of the century. And that's an existential threat for our communities. We wouldn't be able to have certain communities with that much sea level rise. 3 to 5 feet of sea level rise in Sussex County, Delaware is projected to result in the inundation of 4 to 11% of our businesses, 8 to 13% of our residences, and over half of our parkland acreage. Our environmental resources will suffer as well. We're projected to lose nearly all of our salt marshes due to sea level rise by the end of the century. And these are the ecosystems that are absolutely essential to support clean water in our bays, as well as populations of our fish. Increased heat from climate change is projected to increase the already severe algal blooms that we are seeing and to further reduce the amount of oxygen available in our waters to fish and shellfish. This year, our bays experienced a record number of fish kills due in part to low oxygen exacerbated by the excessive heat. So as a local, regional, and global community, we believe that we all have an obligation to do everything that we can to avoid the worst of these impacts by implementing as rapid a transition to renewable energy as possible. Offshore wind is an essential part of that transition. We support it, and we thank you for your efforts to support it as well. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next on our list is Al Reno, followed by Sherry Hott and Bob Heim. Next after Al Reno is Sherry Hott, followed by Bob Heim and Diane Sparagana.
Yes, this is Sherry Hott. Thank you for the chance to direct questions and give my opinions. I appreciate that. One question I have, Skipjack has already informed me that their project does not start until, without going into lots of details, around 142nd Street, Ocean City, and goes north towards Rehoboth Beach. Okay? So having said that, I'm south of 142nd, so I'm going to direct most of my questions to U.S. Wind. I personally believe that 10, 13, whatever miles is too close. Now, why? Number one, it started at a particular number, and now it's, from this one all the way up here to this number here. No, that's not right. You're changing things on everyone involved without even explaining what's going on. Which is it? How many miles out is the project? Number one. Number two, why was it changed? What I have learned, and this is only what I have been told by others that are in this particular project, is that U.S. Wind is the only one that is west of the shipping channel. Okay? Yeah, I see the ships going up and down, that type of thing. But you get used to that, and I'm sure we would get used to the windmills. But my questions are, why 10 miles? Why aren't you the same as Skipjack is? Because they're 20 out. They are on the other side of the shipping channel, or so I was informed. So I personally think that 10, 13 miles is too close. How is their equipment going to hold up to our weather, hurricanes, nor'easters, etc., however you want to work that, okay? As well as that, what happens with your equipment as it ages? is it I started saying biodegradable, I apologize, but is it environmentally friendly? Okay? If it's not, why are you even considering this? How many projects does U.S. Wind have that are in existence today that they can show us and prove what they're saying? My understanding is none. At least Skipjack's got some. I am for anything to help with our climate change. I worked for an agency that was an environmental one for almost 30 years. It was 20-something, 28, I believe. I've been retired now, so I can actually say that. Maintenance and repair costs. Who is going to be responsible for those? Skipjack, they are. They don't pass that on to their per se customer, your electrical users. My understanding is U.S. Wind does. And I got that understanding from Delmarva Power a few years ago. Is it true? I want to know. Inquiring minds. End of the windmill life. Who's going to be responsible for actually removing the parts from the ocean? At whose cost? They only last about 30 years or so. So what's going to happen then? And like everyone else that lives along the coast, I wonder about the sea life. How is that going to affect them and the fishermen? So being that I'm not a fisherman, I can't answer that. But I think that that's very important that you check with all those people. And I think that some of these questions you really should, as a commission, be asking yourself and not of either Skipjack or U.S. Wind. Go out to the, surrounding areas and find out. Go out into the field, find out who should be getting those questions. Okay? Thank you very much again for the opportunity to speak, and good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Hott. We do have some representatives from the developers on tonight's call, and they have heard your questions, and we will try and get answers back to you via the email address that you've signed up for this hearing with, so we appreciate that. Next on the list is Bob Heim, followed by Diane Sparagana, and then followed by Donna Ryle.
Mr. Heim doesn't appear to be here. Ms. Sparagana? Ms. Ryle? We'll move along. Kim Alplenbop. Kim, are you with us? Chris Andrews. Steve Zayeko. Elizabeth Werner.
Yes, hi, I am here.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Werner. Just a heads up, after you, we'll hear from Miller, Thiel, Marson, Chase, Boone. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Werner. I'm an oceanfront property owner here in North Ocean City. I love Ocean City, as we all do. I would like to say this evening that I firmly oppose the wind turbine project here. With 3 young children, I don't take lightly the responsibility of creating a better tomorrow for the next generation, and I support green energy. But I also believe that this project is not the right decision. 800-foot wind turbines looming and visible on our horizon are wrong for Ocean City, Maryland. Ocean wind energy is not a perfect science, with its exorbitant building and maintenance costs and questionable longevity versus minimal green energy produced. Beyond the destruction of this natural and undisturbed ocean view, the interconnection site will come up somewhere on shore, drilling and cabling under our dunes. Although they offered $18 million in incentives to Fenwick Island to connect in their state park, Fenwick still opposed it. The wind companies have their own agenda and have been disinterested in the greater good of Ocean City, Maryland. This coastline is a gem in Maryland. It's overwhelming in its beauty. It's pristine and perfectly natural, and it deserves to be protected and stay that way, undisturbed and free of unsightly turbines. I implore you, the Maryland Public Service Commission, to stand with Ocean City against this wind turbine project and stand firm against destroying our natural horizon forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Sierra Miller, followed by Jake or Elizabeth Thiel, and then Bill Marchin.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Commission, for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Sierra Miller. I grew up visiting Ocean City as a tourist over the summers and eventually moved to Ocean City a few years ago. I've spent my summers working on the water as a guide and doing water quality testing. As a resident of Ocean City now, I am in full support of the applications before you today concerning the offshore wind projects. The project is an exciting opportunity for Maryland and even further Ocean City to be a leader in the ever-growing movement in Maryland and the nation towards greener energy and minimizing anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. I second all the comments raised concerning the climate impacts given by Jennifer Carosa, Charlie Garlow, Ms. McNutt, and Kathy Phillips, among the others supporting the wind project. Much of the discourse I have heard today surrounding the project concerns impact on tourism, which some people I've listed above address. And I just want to add that after completing significant research this summer on coastal resilience and extreme weather impacts on Worcester County this summer, I would point out that flooded streets from sea level rise and longer, more intense and more frequent storm seasons plague the coast caused by climate change and will likely have a greater impact on tourism than this wind project will. As a concerned resident, I ask you to approve this proposal in full. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jake or Elizabeth Thiel, followed by Bill Marcin, and then Jonathan Chase and Blaine Boone. Next on the list would be Bill Marcin.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Stanek and Commissioners, for giving me this opportunity to testify in favor of offshore wind power in Maryland. My name is William Marcin. My wife Rose and I have owned our primary home in the Lutherville area of Baltimore County, Maryland since 1987. In addition, we have enjoyed owning a condominium on 130th Street in Ocean City, Maryland since 2001. I am appearing here today to go on the record as an Ocean City property owner speaking in favor of the applications from Skipjack Offshore Energy and U.S. Wind. The time has come to do everything we can in Maryland to eliminate the burning of fossil fuels to generate our electricity. Some of our friends and neighbors have voiced concern that wind turbines on the horizon might spoil their seaside view and their enjoyment of the beach. I would respond first of all by saying that visibility from the beach on a very clear day is 12 miles or less out to sea. Secondly, and more importantly, if we continue to try to satisfy our demand for electricity with fossil fuel, there will be no beach for anyone to enjoy. I wonder what our future might look like if sea level continues to rise as a result of climate change. Will it become necessary to eventually build a levee or a seawall around all of Ocean City? Certainly this seems extreme. Let me ask you if this seems extreme. Brandon Shore's generating station and Herbert A. Wagner Generating Station are situated at the mouth of the Patapsco River in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, near the Chesapeake Bay. 4.8 million tons of coal is consumed annually at this site. To put that in terms that can be more easily understood, more than one full railroad coal car load, that's over 120 tons, is burned there every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day, every day. In addition, a natural gas fueled unit and an oil fired unit are also on the site. These days, we're focused on premature deaths caused by the COVID-19 coronavirus. According to Johns Hopkins, over 4,750,000 worldwide deaths have been attributed to this horrible cause. How many worldwide premature deaths can be attributed to air pollution? Much of it coming from burning fossil fuels. According to the World Health Organization, 4,200,000 deaths occur every year as a result of exposure to ambient outdoor air pollution. It is time for Maryland to embrace clean energy for the health and well-being of our water, our air, and our people. I encourage the Maryland Public Service Commission to approve the offshore wind applications being considered here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jonathan Chase, followed by Blaine Boone, and then Jared Schley, Shabling.
Hi, Jonathan here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Hello, my name is Jonathan Chase. I have a degree in biology and I am a citizen of Berlin and have lived here for decades. I want to share my support for offshore wind energy projects in this region. As an avid surfer and outdoorsman, I have great concern for how these actions could adversely affect our home. However, I've been able to get the information I needed to make this informed decision to speak in favor of the project. So after careful consideration and informal conversations with representatives of U.S. Wind, I've not been able to find any compelling reason for why this project could be considered a negative action. The U.S. Wind representatives, in my opinion, demonstrated total transparency in their explanation of potential impacts that could occur. Conversely, the town of Ocean City is thought to have spread misleading information about both the viewshed and the process. So some of the benefits I've heard about. For fishing, it will provide an improved recreational fishing opportunity with additional reef structure being created. There'll be no fishing restrictions either. Impacts to whales and shipping lanes are a serious problem outside 28 miles, but the lease area at 12 to 27 miles is perfectly sited to avoid this problem. Regarding impacts to surfing, it is too far away to have any effect on the waves and will not even be visible to those in the water and will not pollute the water that we surf in. Most people's concern is the visibility. Let's not forget that there is significant night light pollution off the resort's beaches at night already. There's so much light at night from Ocean City that one will not be able to tell the difference between them. Accepting change can be difficult. If you travel to other places like Germany or California, these turbines begin to appear to be part of the landscape and they are accepted. And that is for turbines that are onshore and in the landscape. When you consider the benefits that wind-generated power can provide compared to the landscapes of smokestacks that we've seen in our past, you know, in places like Baltimore, and had grown accustomed to, these distant structures out on the water are a major improvement and a sign of progress. If you can learn to accept these kinds of changes and think of them as milestones of progress. It's well known that innovation drives change, and Steve Jobs once said, "Innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity, not a threat." Unfortunately, there are some who see this project as a threat and fail to see the many opportunities that it will provide. There is an urgent need to confront climate change for the world, but especially for Ocean City. So I leave you with this quote from a man named Rashid Ogunlaru. There's little value in advancing technology if our consciousness, compassion, conversation, and cooperation is regressing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next on the list is Blaine Boone, followed by Jared Schlaben, and then John McLaughlin.
Go ahead. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm actually sitting at my local union's union hall in the executive room, boardroom, I'm sorry. Local 24, Baltimore. My name is Blaine Boone, and I'm a 10-year member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 24, Baltimore, like I just said. I'm the product of strong unions providing the best training, resulting in quality work that deserves pay and benefits to provide a good quality life for those in their respective unions. And those unions, alongside the building trades, have done just that in the past, present, and now even more so in planning for the future. Generation from wind power is the future and a massive industry with potential not only for the stakeholders, but for the communities that are in and those who produce the means of their construction now, construction in the future, and long-term production jobs and maintenance. Putting ourselves on the front line of this industry is key to raising the tide on every level in Maryland. And Orsted, in partnership with the building trades and Trade Point Atlantic, know that. There has been countless hours of work and building, both in relationship and actual construction, that speaks for itself. You can see it in the countless projects inside and outside of Maryland that have already massively increased revenue, clean power, and most importantly, bolstered strong, good-paying union jobs. Hundreds to thousands in the current construction, thousands long-term thereafter, not to mention the potential of more when future plans come to pass. We've experienced only some of the benefits in Maryland. They have been massively impactful. So let's keep moving forward and allowing what needs to be done by supporting this ambitious vision so that we here in Maryland can experience the true potential for growth and prosperity so many regions have already experienced. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jared Schlaben, followed by John McLaughlin, and then Carmen Voso.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. My name is Jared Schlaben, and I'm born and raised on the Eastern Shore, and my family has been here for over 300 years. Tonight, I am representing the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus, and as a 23-year-old, I also represent the generation with the most to lose due to climate change. Climate change is already affecting areas here on the Eastern Shore. We're seeing stronger storms. We're seeing it affecting our agriculture. We're seeing more tidal flooding or sunny day flooding affecting our coastal communities like Ocean City, Crisfield, and areas across the shore. I support this project, and the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus supports this project because it will bring clean energy to fight the climate crisis and bring jobs and industry back to our region after decades of having good paying jobs and industry pack up shops and leave. There's so many young folks just like myself who have had to leave the area because we couldn't find good jobs. They've had to go to the Western Shore. They had to go to, out of state, despite really loving it down here. I understand the town of Ocean City's concern. Tourism is a big issue. However, Ocean City has bigger problems when it comes to tourism. Banner planes, ships, and massive hotels cluttered the skyline, already affecting the view, while the offshore wind turbines would be far enough off the coast that it would barely affect the vision. Also, there are more things at risk of scaring off tourists, such as violent arrest for vaping, drunken high school students on senior week, H2OI, people flying the Nazi flag on the boardwalk, and blowing up fireworks, almost killing beachgoers during July 4th. There is far more pressing matters in terms of tourism than offshore wind. I ask the commission approve the offshore wind and the good paying jobs because our region deserves good paying jobs and industry for our region. For that reason, I ask that the commission approve the applications and the town of Ocean City rethink their priorities.
Thank you. Next on the list is John McLaughlin, followed by Carmen Voso, and then David Eder.
Hi, my name is Rico Albuquerque. I'm speaking on behalf of John McLaughlin tonight. I'm a member of IBW Local 24 in Baltimore, and I'd like to thank the commission for giving me an opportunity to speak. I want to start off saying a few things about U.S. Wind and the investment they are making and are prepared to make in the state. It's headquartered right here in Maryland, and they're committed to creating jobs here in Maryland. The Momentum Wind project alone is going to create thousands of jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in labor income over the next 25 years. The investment U.S. Wind is making at Trade Point Atlantic in the form of Sparrows Point Steel, Aaron Tamarcu spoke on it earlier, that might be even more significant. We're talking about over 500 local permanent jobs and over $1 billion in labor income over the next 20 years. That's 500 jobs. That's 500 families that are going to be affected by those jobs. I have 2 young daughters, and we go to Ocean City. I love Ocean City. We go there every year. We stay there for a week every year. It's where I take my family vacation. I hope that 5 years from now or 20 years from now or whenever we get this over the hill, I can tell them that we fought for clean energy. I can tell them we did something to improve their environment and the lives of Maryland residents. I want to tell them we fought to put Maryland at the forefront of the offshore wind industry because it's already happening in places like Rhode Island and New Jersey. We're already falling behind, and I, for one, I'm tired of being behind. This is a project that will produce clean energy, lower carbon emissions. It will create thousands of good-paying jobs, both short-term and long-term. It will create billions of dollars of income, billions with a B, for Maryland residents, and it will make Maryland a leader of the offshore and wind industry. Commissioners, it's for these reasons I'm asking you to approve this application. The time to lead is now. Thank you again for allowing me to speak at this hearing. I appreciate your time.
We are going to take a brief recess at this point, 8:15, to allow everybody to stretch and give the court reporter a break. So we'll come back at 8:15. We'll hear from Mr. Voso, Eder, Lash, Dye, and Bunting in that order. And we have many more names to go. Recess until 8:15. All right, welcome back. We will go back on the record. I failed to mention at the outset this evening that we do have a court reporter with us who is making a transcript of the comments. So your comments are on the record this evening. We left off with Mr. Voso is next, followed by Mr. Eater and Mr. Lash.
Good evening. My name is Carmen Vaso. I'm a third generation International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 24 member. I strongly support the approval of these applications. Both Ørsted and US Wind have committed to using union labor on this project. This means fair wages and consistent work for local tradespeople. And on a personal level, I vacation in Ocean City. My family drives across the Bay Bridge. I get to point up at the lights on the Bay Bridge, tell them that their uncles did those lights. Their grandfather worked on this bridge. When I get into Ocean City, I would love to show my grandkids and my children, my grandkids in the future that your daddy and his friends worked on those windmills out there, rather than just a plane flying by saying foam party at H2O tonight. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next on the list is David Eater, followed by Roger Lash and Sheila Dye.
Yes, thank you. My name is David Eater. I'm the underground distribution project manager for Riggs Distler and Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Centuri Group based in Dundalk, Maryland. Riggs Distler was established and incorporated in Baltimore in 1909. Over the last century, we have grown into one of the largest union utility, mechanical, and electrical construction contractors in the United States. I have been working in the utility construction industry for over 35 years, almost 20 of which have been with Riggs Distler. specializing in implementing strategies to achieve safety and quality goals in underground electric distribution. I believe the new offshore wind market in Maryland provides a great opportunity to move toward our nation's green energy goals through safe and strategic planning. As an Eastern Shore, Maryland resident working for a Maryland incorporated company, I, along with my company, support the potential benefits that union employees and fellow residents like myself will see from the construction and implementation of offshore wind energy to the power grid. Thanks for the opportunity this evening.
Thank you. Next on the list is Roger Lash, followed by Sheila Dye and Jocelyn Bunting.
Mr. Lash, we cannot hear you. It appears that you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can, yes. Please proceed.
Excellent, thank you. And thanks to the commission for the ability to testify here tonight. I represent the organization of masters, mates, and pilots who is a part of the maritime industry involved in this project. We're supporting the Baltimore, Washington Construction Trades Council. As several of my brothers and sisters here, I'm also a 47-year member of Local 24, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, with jurisdictions in Baltimore and Maryland's Eastern Shore. I am also, and like to thank you state guys employed by the state, a retired state of Maryland employee. I'm the former director of the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Program with purview over 10,000 apprentices. Why is any of this significant? Well, I've had a bird's eye view in my career. So what's going to happen with this project? Skilled U.S. maritime workers will be required on all phases of the project, from construction to permanent jobs in maintenance, providing transportation from shore to site to the involved personnel. Skilled U.S. building tradesmen will be required to build and maintain the actual platforms and infrastructure, both shoreside and offshore, to operate the system. All of your guests have already commented on the impact on these jobs. A majority of these jobs in multiple industries will use both the state of Maryland and the U.S. Department of Labor's registered apprenticeship programs, many of which use a high school diploma as a prerequisite. Look at the impact on education, not just in the Eastern Shore, but in the state of Maryland as well, and the entire Delmarva Peninsula. This does not include, and I saw the steelworkers on, shoreside manufacturing and transportation sector jobs that are also included. So the impact here, you can't really estimate this. And we're not only working in this area, but we're working up and down the East Coast on every wind farm that's from the maritime sector that we are involved with. But how will this affect people who own property in Ocean City? Well, that would include people like me. I have oceanfront property in North Ocean City with nothing but the horizon on the water as a view. That's a lifetime investment for my family, and I have owned there for 24 years and want my kids and my grandkids to enjoy it as long as they can. Ocean City is a thin strip of sand that can be severely damaged with storms, and without the benefit of climate change, they got hit back in 1933 and in 1962. We know all too well, and the comments have covered it tonight, about the current climate crisis and what is possible. Consider Ellicott City in Howard County, with 2,000-year storms within 2 years, back to back. There's your climate change. Building this project will help to preserve the future for generations to come. Renewable energy is the way to go. And let me comment on the people. One of the folks that testified earlier was concerned about the skill level of the equipment, of the people installing the equipment and the equipment reliability. The very best people in this area will be sent to construct not only the support systems, but to install the work. And I know that. I've been involved with them for almost 50 years. Also, back on my property, if we don't do this and we decide not to, and I don't think that's going to be the case, I just don't want my property to serve as a wooden jetty on a sandbar. I don't want to be oceanfront property for Ocean Pines. Thanks a lot. And by the way, thank you guys for working all these hours tonight and allowing all these folks to testify, including myself.
Thank you. Next on the list is Sheila Dye, followed by Jocelyn Bunting, and then Linda Youngbluth.
Is Ms. Bunting with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Jocelyn Bunting, and I'm a Worcester County resident. Our family owns the Ocean Princess, which is Ocean City's largest headboat. While I support green energy, I have a variety of concerns related to the wind turbines. First, regarding horseshoe crabs. The wind turbines will be placed within the Schuster Horseshoe Crab Sanctuary. The blood of the horseshoe crabs is a crucial resource for the medical field. However, not one study has examined the impact of wind turbines or high voltage cables on the horseshoe crabs. Secondly, regarding right whales. The right whales are endangered species. There's only about 300 remaining, and these right whales will be migrating through the wind turbine area. In spring 2021, WETO, which stands for the Wind Energy Technology Office, released their R&D newsletter. They are still developing a technology to mitigate the negative impacts of offshore wind energy development on endangered species, including the right whale. This monitoring platform would detect right whale calls and estimate the distance. This would be used to minimize construction impacts on the whales. However, this coastal acoustic buoy for offshore wind is still in its prototype stage. Thirdly, my concern regarding recycling and upcycling of the blades is that Bloomsburg Green cites that tens of thousands of wind turbine blades have reached their end of life and are now piling up in landfills because hardly any are recycled. The turbines are getting larger and larger, and according to Thunderstead Energy, the larger turbines are more carbon intensive, which use advanced materials that are 10 to 25 times more costly and emit carbon dioxide. Lastly, regarding safety, vessels have hit wind turbines in the past. For example, in May 2016, there was a boat that hit a turbine in the Irish Sea. In April 2020, a vessel collided with a turbine in the German Northern Sea. If this happens here, will this area become an exclusion zone for commercial and recreational fishermen? If this was an exclusion zone, you would be denying access to multiple shipwrecks, and you would be redirecting vessels huge distances to get to commonly fished grounds. Can you make a guarantee that this area won't become a zone of exclusion? I attended a conservation meeting this past Friday, and representatives from US Wind said that they cannot make this guarantee at that meeting. But as we've heard from people during this call and during Friday's conservation meeting, there is this perception that the wind turbine structures will attract fish to the area. If this is true, and US Wind or the government decides to create an exclusion zone, then local fishermen, commercial or recreational, will be denied access to these fish. In my humble opinion, this project seems very cart before the horse. More studies need to be done regarding the impact on horseshoe crabs and right whales. The decision of whether to build the wind turbines needs to be based on reliable data. Thank you for this opportunity to voice my concerns.
Thank you. Next on the list is Linda Youngbluth, followed by Dr. Bruce Dagui and Margaret Kimmel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Linda Youngbluth, and I live in Easton, Maryland. And I support offshore wind. Offshore wind will produce clean energy and greatly reduce carbon emissions from energy powered by oil and gas. These emissions greatly contribute to climate change and decreasing bird populations. I'm an enthusiastic birder who draws great joy from observing birds and learning how birds are an essential link in our ecosystem. Habitat for these birds on the Eastern Shore is decreasing at an alarming rate because of climate change. Over the last 10 years, I've watched hundreds of acres of very important bird habitat in Dorchester County disappear because of sea level rise due to climate change. Birds such as the seaside sparrow are becoming rarities. The impacts to birds from the wind turbines off the coast will be minimal, as demonstrated by studies done by the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Sciences. Almost all migrating birds stay within 10 miles of the coastline, and the wind turbines will be more than 12 miles off the coast. So I urge the Commission to support the wind project and help to reduce carbon emissions and promote clean energy in Maryland. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Bruce Duggy, followed by Margaret Kimmel and Lindsay Meeks.
Hello, my name is Bruce Daggy. I'm a Maryland resident who works in healthcare research, and in recent years, I've become involved in volunteer capacity concerning the impact of air quality on public health. I'm here to speak in favor of these offshore wind projects. We must move forward with these projects to clean up electricity production, not just to reduce CO2 emissions, but from a respiratory safety perspective, to reduce particulate matter and toxic air contaminant emissions. Many health experts believe that the US standard for PM 2.5 is far too lax. The WHO has cited evidence of harmful health effects of lower levels of PM 2.5 in their recently updated guideline that called for further reductions in particulate matter. So for public health reasons, as well as for broader environmental reasons, there is an urgency to retire our antiquated power plants. The state has recognized this need and is committed to the retirement of its coal-fired power plants in less than a decade. Offshore wind can rapidly and cleanly help fill the supply gap from these closures. It's a proven technology. The US is well behind other parts of the world. We have the benefit of learning from their experience. Beyond the coal-fired power plants scheduled for closure, the state also has oil-fired and gas-fired plants that will also need to be retired in the coming years. For those who object to the projects based on tourism concerns, I think others have covered this pretty well. Let's face it. When we go to the beach now, we observe a plethora of man-made objects. Most people will adjust to the presence of one more type of man-made object in the distant horizon. Sand castles will still be built. Beach chairs and bikinis will not disappear. And I'm going to close with a personal perspective from this beachgoer. My grandson is 9 months old. When it comes time to take him to the shore, I'll seek out a beach or a boat ride where he can watch the turbines spinning in the distance. And when he asks me, "Opa, what is that?" I will explain that that's the future. So many of our young people are feeling despair about their futures because they think we've waited too long to avoid a climate catastrophe. Let's show them that we will act. Don't make me have to take my grandson to a beach somewhere else on the eastern seaboard to see what should be visible here. Thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you. Next on the list is Margaret Kimmel, followed by Lindsay Meeks and Lisa Dudley.
Hi, my name is Margaret Kimmel. I'm a full-time year-round resident of Ocean City and have been for more than 20 years. I'm a strong supporter of renewable energy. I believe the development of shore and offshore energy is necessary to the very future of Ocean City. After reading the University of Delaware report on the effect of turbines on the beach experience, I'm convinced that the possible impact on the viewscape is not anywhere near as big a threat as the impact of climate change on a town with the average elevation above sea level of 10 feet or less. The catastrophic flooding in mid-Atlantic cities like Washington, D.C. and New York City just a few weeks ago as a hurricane moved north should be a wake-up call to Ocean City and all Maryland residents. I support the application before the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Lindsay Meeks, followed by Lisa Dudley and Ray Wetzel.
Thank you so much. My opposition.
Ms. Meeks,
Yes.
Ms. Meeks, we're having trouble with your microphone. Can you either speak up or adjust it?
Yeah, is this better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, to the Public Service Commission for this opportunity to express my opinion in the opposition to the wind farm projects. Unlike many, my opinion of opposition is not so concerned about the destructive views, although the lack of concern for the sheer beauty Mother Nature has blessed Worcester County with is disheartening. My opinion is that I am far more concerned with what is happening underneath of these wind turbines, underneath of the view, than what is going on above it. The resonating concern of urgency over lowering fossil fuels and to reduce carbon emissions is a noble one and very needed, no questions asked. My reservations are this. The turbines initially approved here already changed multiple times. What is the obsolescence period or the timeline on the currently proposed turbines? The BOEM, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, is supposed to be a sort of liaison between the coastal communities and the wind farm contractors, is to my understanding. They have already failed in Rhode Island, creating an error that is equally anywhere either $31 million or $81 million in damages of a boo-boo that's going to need to be redone by not following the recommendation of the local authorities having jurisdiction when they chose to jet plow versus horizontally directionally drill for the line that is to be going between these wind turbines and the land. What kind of reassurance do we have as the coastal community that the BOEM and that the contractors of the wind turbines are going to be listening to the local authorities having jurisdiction and the recommendations when constructing these turbines? Let's see. Bear with me here. On paper, the wind turbines and the impact of the emissions seems really good on paper, but I'm actually in the business of maintaining metal and metal equipment in the atmospheric salt conditions of Ocean City. And our metal equipment can rust away if it's not a certain grade of metal within even 1 to 2 years. So how do we know that the metal that's going to be used to construct these turbines are going to be of a quality that are not going to create a problem? The wind turbines actually in Rhode Island, of the 5 that are there, only 2 of them have been running even halfway too efficiently. So what do we have that, what kind of reassurance do we have that these things are not going to go up and they're going to either be obsolete or they're going to come down, and know that there's stress fractures currently on the ones in Rhode Island? Likewise, I'm hearing a lot of discussion about the job creation coming from over the bridge in Baltimore County, where honestly, the politicians over there haven't really seemed to be getting it right because they're always in a constant state of turmoil or something crazy going on in Baltimore County and the surrounding areas. So their input on affecting our pristine little slice of heaven over here over the bridge that they all like to come on vacation to, honestly, until they're tried and true over the bridge, I don't really want their policies over here on our side of the bridge because their policies have failed. What kind of reassurance do we have that these jobs that are going to be created are going to be distributed equally to the local residents of Worcester County? What about the fishermen they're getting ready to lose their jobs with what you guys are proposing to do? Likewise, I don't believe that enough research has gone on in regard to other forms of renewable energy. What about solar energy? What about hydro energy? What about hydro turbines even underneath of the views? They are far more efficient than the wind turbines and seem to be way less invasive. I really would urge for the public commission to.
If you could sum up, thank you. If you could sum up.
I would urge for the commission to halt this process right now. Don't let them break ground and don't let them tear up our beautiful oceans and all the environmental impacts that are going to happen here. The boo-boo that happened in Rhode Island is going to take another 2 years of heavy invasive drilling to rectify. And for what? We don't even know if these things are going to last more than 5 or 10 years out there. And likewise, who is going to dispose of them when they fail? Everyone's very urgent to come up with a solution to lower the fossil fuel emission and the greenhouse gases, but what if we waste all this time, effort, and energy on a solution that is simply not going to work and ends up failing? What is all this time that we're wasting on this one scenario, putting all of our eggs in one basket and then moving forward without the R&D behind it to support it?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Meeks. You're at time. If you have additional comments, please file them in the docket before our deadline. We'll next turn to Miss Lisa Dudley, followed by Ray Wetzel. If we don't have those individuals with us, we'll turn to Joe Jakonski, followed by Mary Harrison, Marie France, and Mary Osh. Mr. Jankowski.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've analyzed the numerous inputs on this issue over the past few years, and it appears to me that the people that are opposed to the wind turbines are basing their position mostly on emotion. The science indicates that climate change is happening and that humans must take immediate action to avoid a catastrophe. Every time and every day we delay the implementation of renewable energy sources brings the day of reckoning earlier and earlier. The regular flooding, which now occurs in parts of Ocean City, as well as throughout Delaware, will get worse sooner if Ocean City continues to rely on fossil fuel electric production. I also find the emotional argument that Ocean City must protect its view is inconsistent with the billboard boats which regularly motor up and down the beach, obstructing the view of beachgoers. The view is also regularly disturbed by banner airplanes, parasail boats, and other watercraft which regularly cross within hundreds of feet of the beach, not 12 miles away. The view will not matter if the properties in Ocean City are not accessible due to flooding. For the greatest protection of most residents of Ocean City, I firmly believe we need to reduce our use of fossil fuels. The installation of wind turbines being discussed today will be a good step forward toward renewable energy production for Ocean City and needs to happen without further delay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mary Harrison, followed by Marie France and Mary Osh. After Mary Harrison is Marie France, followed by Mary Osh and Kaylin Joseph. If Marie France is not here, then Mary Osh, you are up next.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. My name is Mary Ochi. I reside in downtown Ocean City, Maryland on 7th Street. My husband and I are the former owners of the Kite Loft on the boardwalk at 5th Street since 1975. And we've been active in the business community in many ways. Boardwalk renovations, downtown association, Chamber of Commerce, Assateague Coastal Trust, Coastal Bays, and we put on world-class kite festivals since 1978. In other words, we have a pretty good knowledge of business in Ocean City and a pretty good knowledge of environmental issues in our community. We are strong advocates for wind energy. We've traveled to Europe many, many times on a sailboat, and we have witnessed wind farms from Spain to Sweden. We spend our summers now in Deep Creek, Maryland, And the wind farms in the mountains of Garrett County are just amazing. Our information is that the positive gains from wind energy far outweigh any negatives. And we do not side with the Ocean City Council that they are a visual blight on the horizon. On the contrary, they are beautiful to watch and actually give a positive feeling for our future. We encourage our fellow citizens and leaders to get behind this project and join the ongoing progress of clean energy in Maryland. Thank you for having me.
It was good.
Thank you. Next on the list is Kaylin Joseph, followed
Let's
by
go. Take
Barbara
your phone with
Groover,
you, 'cause people.
and followed by Barbara Groover and Mike Lewis.
Hello, my name is Kaylin Joseph. Thank you for allowing me to speak today and taking the time to hear all of our opinions. I live and work in the environmental science field on the eastern shore of Maryland. For as long as I can remember, I've been passionate about beaches and marine life and protecting them. Constructing an offshore wind farm will no doubt have a short-term effect on marine life. That is something I highly considered before I decided to personally testify in support of this project. As our oceans continue to get warmer and ecosystems continue to collapse, I know that climate change is a bigger threat than any impact from this project. We needed to start a large-scale transition to renewable energy decades ago. Marine and estuarine ecosystems are already dying from our unwavering reliance on burning fossil fuels. Waiting any longer is not an option. For those concerned about the views from Ocean City being obstructed, I want to point out that currently, even on sunny days, flooding occurs during high tides in Ocean City. The eastern shore is experiencing some of the highest rates of sea level rise in the world. At the same time, our land has been slowly sinking since the past ice age. As glaciers continue to melt, the tectonic plates are evening themselves out, and the Delmarva Peninsula sinks back into its pre-glacial elevation. I mourn for the communities of the Chesapeake and of Dorchester County that have already been lost to the waters. Replenishing sand on Ocean City will not be enough to change our fate, which is inevitably going to be the same. Ocean City will no doubt be visited more with tiny windmills in the distance than it would be if it were underwater. This is way bigger than a discussion about some windmills on the horizon and a few marine animals. This is a discussion of the future of our planet. As a scientist who is passionate about marine life, I want to reiterate that protecting marine life is of the utmost importance to me. But more importantly, I'm an Eastern Shore citizen and a human being on planet Earth. I want what is best for our people, our communities, and all life around us. We have the science. Studies have been done to see the effects on marine life, and it is minimal. In regards to previous comments about disturbing the ocean floor, these turbines create structure and topography where there is currently just sandy substrate. They act as artificial reefs, which important marine species are drawn to and will migrate through. As previously stated, development and others have not scared people off. This is what our transition to a cleaner future is going to look like, and people will maybe see those turbines and know Maryland was a leader in this fight if they do see them. We know what needs to be done for a better future, and we need to get to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Barbara Groover, followed by Mike Lewis, John Fager, Rick Offutt, and Jim Strong. Next up is Mike Lewis, followed by John Fager, Rick Offutt, Jim Strong, and Laura Charlisle. Next is John Fager, followed by Rick Offutt, Jim Strong, Laura Charlisle, and Rebecca Samowitz. Next would be Rick Offutt, followed by Jim Strong, Laura Charlisle, Rebecca Samowitz, and Jimmy Brennan. Next is Jim Strong, followed by Lara Charlo, Rebecca Samowitz, Jimmy Brennan, and Graces Soltis.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Secretary, and also Chairman Stanek and the other members of the Public Service Commission. My name is Jim Strong. I'm the Assistant to the Director of the United Steelworkers District 8. When I say District 8, I'm talking about the 4 states of Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky. But having said that, I am a lifelong resident of Maryland, and I'm proud to say that I go on vacation with my family 2 to 3 times a year at Ocean City. Back in 2006, our union, along with the Sierra Club, formed what we now know as the Blue-Green Alliance, which its mission is to address climate change with the use of increasing our use of renewable energies. That's why we're in support of this application for U.S. Wind, because we believe that this will help address the climate crisis that we are faced with on a daily basis. But the other reason is the jobs that it will bring to the state of Maryland. I was so proud to be with U.S. Wind on August the 4th, representing our union when the announcement was made about the Sparrows Point Steel Mill coming back to Sparrows Point. Everybody, I believe, understands our history there. We had a steel mill there with over 30,000 members at one time, and we have a tremendous amount of legacy there, and we've always viewed that area as sacred ground. That's why it was good news for our union to be part of U.S. Wind's announcement that that facility that will be built will bring over 500 steelworker jobs back to home, which we call Sparrows Point. These are the type of jobs that, unfortunately, we've been losing in years, those middle-class jobs. These jobs are going to be well-paid jobs that will provide the benefits, the health care, the retirement plans that made the middle class. And we're so proud to be partners with U.S. Wind, and we know that this is going to bring a tremendous amount of economic impact to the state, and it also will address climate change. So therefore, we're asking the Public Service Commission to support this application by U.S. Wind, and let's move this project forward. Thank you, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you. Next on the list is Lara Charl, followed by Rebecca Samowitz, Jimmy Brennan, Grace Soltis, and Leonard Schindel. Next on the list is Rebecca Samowitz, followed by Jimmy Brennan, Grace Soltis, Leonard Schindel, and Ed Jewett.
Are any of those folks with us?
Here.
Who are you?
Rebecca Samowitz.
Yes, ma'am, please proceed.
My name is Rebecca Samowitz. I live in Ocean City. I look at the beach all day long. I'm there on the beach. We have full moon lagoons that come more often now. Sometimes the water, just a regular old nor'easter, the water will come down the trail to the beach, onto the street. I live far up 131st Street. I just want to be very brief. A lot of positive comments. I want to associate myself, especially with Assateague Coastal Trust, when they say that we support this project and we want it to be done responsibly. And that's where you, Chairman Stanek, and the Commission, Commissioner Linton and others, that's where we're depending on you to oversee this project. I have been to meetings with Larry Ryan and so forth, and it seems that it's stalled. We want action on this. And we depend on you to see that it's done responsibly. All of the questions that have been brought up are important and need to be addressed. And as somebody said, I mean, we just got back from Normandy. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but beautiful, pristine coast, that Van Gogh painted. There's windmills everywhere. There's huge, huge turbines. And this, we don't have the luxury anymore of worrying about whether they're going to spoil the view. As Kaylin Joseph said, this is so much bigger than the view. We're talking about the survival of the Eastern Shore. And as public commissioners, public service commissioners, I wish that we had just thank you so much for this transparency. And I wish we had had this, because one day I woke up and asked my husband what was going on right on the beach. They had drilled under the dunes. I thought the dunes were sacred. We can't even step on them outside our building. And Sandpiper Energy just came in. I never saw a notice about it. I phoned the chairman of our condo association. I phoned the city hall. I phoned everywhere. Nobody knew anything about it. All of a sudden there's gas that nobody wants. Electric is a bit safer in all these rental units. And I wish that we had had the same transparency then. For this project, we must go ahead. Everybody has said there's an urgency about it, and we're depending on you to see that it's done responsibly, that all of these questions are addressed. And thank you so much for this meeting, and I applaud all the comments.
Thank you, Ms. Semowitz. We'll turn next to the Brennans.
Hi, thank you for having me today. I am Jim Brennan from Easton, town of Easton on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I appreciate being able to give my virtual public comments on expanding the offshore wind initiative. This is the third Service Commission hearing I've attended on offshore wind. I applaud the progress this commission has made towards delivering more renewable energy generation to Maryland's grid. You are laying the groundwork for local jobs and infrastructure investment on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Wind farm construction and operation will deliver job opportunities to the midshore. Right now, we are in a race with our neighboring states of Virginia, New Jersey, and New York for the jobs and utility infrastructure investment that are coming to the Eastern Seaboard. Maryland must garner a share of this bounty. We are counting on you to make sure that we get a piece of this action. Wind energy is a mature, proven component of any modern energy grid. We will see many wind farms spring up along the Atlantic coastline in the near term. This is a certainty. We want wind farm construction and operation to be based in Maryland. We want the maximum wind generation exposure possible. You are making good progress on this task. Keep up the good work, and thanks a lot.
We'll turn to Ms. Solstice.
Hi, my name is Grace Soltis from Easton, Maryland, and I am a beach lover. I have spent almost every summer of my life at one beach or another. And I want to thank the Commission for giving me the opportunity to speak. As our climate changes, the burden of increasingly devastating weather events is growing. The dire facts regarding the serious impact of climate change and how human activity have caused it were withheld from us too long. So now we're in a crisis mode. The viability of life on Earth is in danger. There's no time to waste. Talking about ugly views, the opposition complaint is about the view shed on the horizon. And I would like everyone to consider turning around and watching the ocean sweeping away your beach, our beach in Ocean City, Maryland. That would be an ugly view. Individuals and businesses would lose. 13 islands in Maryland have already gone that way. They are now totally submerged. And our favorite beaches are also vulnerable. So we must act. As far as birds go, many are concerned about casualties of birds and of species. They're already dying. They're dying from heat. And the fact that we have overdeveloped beaches all over the world to the extent that they no longer have nesting places. That being said, they also, their eggs and the eggs of sea turtles are often getting cooked on the beach before they have a chance to hatch. So you see, given that we're not willing to give up our lifestyle, we have to make other changes. We have to consider the type of energy we're using. As far as home health and our homes, our health, and our farms, the impact of climate change on the rise and severity of heart and respiratory diseases is growing. Even worse, extreme drought has caused extreme water shortages in some areas, while floods rage in others. Millions of acres of forests and nature's air cleaners perish each year in this country alone. Billions of animals have been literally incinerated. And the smoke from the west doesn't stay there. I, for one, suffer from the smoke that comes across the country. I can tell. I can tell when something is burning, whether it's local or it's blowing across the country. And many have respiratory diseases. Many who were not ill before are now becoming vulnerable because all smoke is carcinogenic. Farmers are struggling with cycles of drought and floods. Food prices are increasing, and food availability is falling. It's time for major changes in how we do a lot of things. One thing is certain: major increases in clean energy production and carbon sequestration are needed. So those tiny, beautiful white X's on the ocean's horizon buy us time and give us hope. Let's pull out all the stops and do everything possible to combat climate change and slow sea level rise. We need time to adapt. The challenge is not small. I thank the PSC also for greenlighting the offshore wind projects in the first place.
Thank you, Ms. Solstice. If you could just wrap up.
Sure. I just want to say that the world's climate crisis is our crisis. Offshore wind is critical to our response, and the offshore wind's potential must be maximized. Please do everything in your power to expedite its expansion in Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mr. Leonard Schindel or Ed Jewett with us? Is Mr. David Quillen with us? Ward Tucker? Rico Albuquerques? Michelle Dietz?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding case 9666. For the record, my name is Michelle Dietz. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Maryland, D.C. chapter of the Nature Conservancy. TNC asks for your approval of U.S. Wind's application Round 2 Qualified Offshore Wind Project and award of offshore wind renewable energy credits. TNC is one of the world's leading conservation organizations with a presence in all 50 states and over 70 countries. We implement our mission to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends in a collaborative, science-based manner with a variety of partners. We're committed to reducing global greenhouse gas emissions, a goal that cannot be achieved without a rapid transition to a clean energy economy. TNC views offshore wind as an essential part of reaching state, national, and global low-carbon energy goals and combating the negative health and climate impacts of fossil fuels. TNC recently started an offshore wind program to help steer this rapidly growing energy sector towards improving siting and advancing marine conservation as multiple large-scale wind projects are proposed up and down the East Coast. We also launched an offshore wind mapping tool to avoid critical habitat, protect species, and accommodate commercial and recreational uses. U.S. Wind's proposed wind project has brought together the expertise of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, other federal agencies, and nonprofits and NGOs to ensure proper siting that avoids fishing, shipping, and wildlife impacts. U.S. Wind also enlisted resources and support from experts, including the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, to study and gather critical scientific data on potentially impacted wildlife. They also sought out stakeholder input by engaging local elected officials, commercial and recreational fishing industries, and residents through meetings and open channels of communication to inform the project through feedback. And as the only offshore wind developer focused solely in Maryland, with company headquarters in Baltimore, a lease off our coast, and exclusive commitment to create jobs and economic opportunities in our state, approval of this project will support and invest in Maryland's statewide economy. Maryland has already experienced 1 foot of sea level rise since the turn of the 20th century, with an additional foot of rise expected by 2050. And studies predict that we may see an additional 3 feet of sea level rise by 2100. The impacts are already being felt in communities across our state, and Ocean City is no stranger to the effects of increased coastal flooding, severe storms, and heat. So we need to act now through investments in clean energy to protect our land, infrastructure, and economy from further climate damages. For these reasons, the Nature Conservancy urges your approval of US Wind's application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll turn to Mr. Mark Rice.
Good evening. Thank you very much for this chance to testify, Mr. Maritime Applied Physics Corporation is located in Baltimore. We build naval vessels, and we're hoping to expand our business into crew transfer vessels to carry people to and from the wind turbines. We're also the recipient of a NOAA contract to try to adapt Navy technology for the detection of right whales on the surface of the ocean while transiting out to the wind farms. We expect to receive orders for 2 crew transfer vessels in 2022, and that will add 30 new jobs that pay between $18 and $30 an hour to our Baltimore facility. We are also suffering from sea level rise. We're about 3 feet above sea level, and the increasing frequency of storms is having an effect on our business. So we would very vigorously like to support the applications of both US Wind and Skipjack, these projects that are important for our economy and for our environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask if there are any persons in this virtual hearing that registered but were not called on, or perhaps we missed you earlier today and would like to comment. Hearing none, I'd like to first to thank the Madam Secretary as well as our court reporter, but more importantly, thank all of you for coming out tonight and sharing your comments with myself and my 4 colleagues. So on behalf of my fellow commissioners, thank you for coming this evening. All of your comments will be included in the record in case number 9666. The commission will have another hearing to receive comments on Thursday evening, 2 days from now. You do not need to appear at that hearing if you provided your comments with us tonight. And again, you have until November 19th to file any written comments with the commission, and that can be done online through the commission's online comment portal. Again, we appreciate your attendance tonight and spending the past 3+ hours with us. At this point, this hearing is now adjourned. Have a good evening.
Hey, Tony.